Anonymous? Okay, that was bad. Anyway, if we could start, Mr. Bricker, could you lead us in the pledge, please? We'll use the, I guess, the screen. It kind of has a flag on it. It's good enough.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Reverend Sister, could you lead us in prayer, please?
Yes, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight. We thank you. This part of the meeting is called the blessing. And Lord, we thank you for how blessed we are. How blessed we are to live in this nation, that you've placed us here, Lord, for such a time as this. Lord, we just give you all the glory for that. And we thank you tonight that there's so much ahead of us, Lord. And it can look daunting, but yet, Lord, with you, the Bible says we can run through a troop and leap over a wall. And for some of us, that's pretty good. So we thank you tonight. And we give you glory for each and every person here. We pray that this training, Lord God, will just put us in the place that you want us to be. And we give you all praise and glory. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Next up, roll call. Secretary Luthi. Whoops. I guess we'll wait for some folks to get in. Do you need a couple more chairs? While we're waiting for folks to settle in here, you should have gotten the reason why we have these lists is because it has phone numbers. You'll be able to call your precinct folks and hopefully to rally to get them to the precinct caucuses on February 17th. That's the whole purpose of giving you this. Yes, sir. Mr. Smith.
Do we know if Nicholas Carter is a Republican?
I have no idea. I only pulled Republicans off, so if he's listed as a Republican, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because he ran for Senate as a Democrat, is why I'm asking.
Yeah, well, again, it may not be upgraded. It may be an election cycle behind. It should be close. It's better than, the only reason why we have to go with this is that we have no other way to get phone numbers for everybody.
So, did you get this from the county? Is that...
No, GOP data center. Okay, right. If you go to the county, the only thing you can get is their address. And you can't get no phone numbers, no emails, no way for you guys to reach out and contact them. You're just as precinct folks. And that's one of your big jobs, is to get people to the precinct caucus. We're going to be talking about that a lot. And I have a feeling you're going to gain that. So,
Everybody that's a registered voter. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. If you're going
Barbara, you ready to do roll call?
you have the precinct population, then you're wrong.
And first and precinct 1-1, Roy Edwards. Barb Luthi, present. 1-3, Chris Smith.
Present.
1-5, John Howard. Diane Solomon, here. 1-7, Brooks Borman. And Charlene Sundquist. Emma Howard. 1-9, Rod Mathis.
Here.
Gail Cooper. 1-11, Jarek Dudley. Autumn Dudley. 1-12, Ed Rebish. Lawrence Welsh. Here. 1-14, Dan Helvey. Paula Whip. Here. 1-15, Dave Horning. Robert Hollander. Heidi Gross. Patricia Collins. Here. 1-16, Troy Sear.
Here.
Sherry Sear.
She's here by proxy.
1-17, Scott Clem. Chelsea Clem. 1-18, Jason Hawk. Myrna Rogers. 1-19, Richard Horning. Tim Hallahan. Mary Horning.
Here.
1-20, Calvin Winkle, Van Winkle.
Here.
Roxana Van Winkle. 1-21, Eric Sundquist. Holly Spielman. Here. 1-22, Mickey Schober. Linda Schober. 1-23, Tom Lovenow, Rita Lovenow. 1-24, Vincent Neamu, Leah Neamu. 1-25, Darren Line. Donna Crone. Here. 3-1, Rusty Bell. Dan Coley.
Roxy.
April Coley.
Here.
And Michelle Mitchell. 4-1, Matt Avery.
Here.
Joe Kissick. Amity Kissick. Sarah Skillings. 5-1, Alan Johnson.
Here.
Matthew Garth. Laura Garth. Carrie Kinsel. Here. Kinsley, is that right?
Yes.
6-1, Dudley Mackey. Marilyn Mackey. 7-1, Doug Camplin.
Here.
Charlene Camplin.
Here.
8-1, Justin Mader.
Here.
Janet Mader. Here. 9-1, Dale Janota. Michelle Janota. 13-1, Eric Barlow. Kelly Barlow. 14-1, Cindy Arndt. Tex Adams. 14-2, Luann Borgiali. 18-1, Steve Bricker.
Here.
Linda Bricker.
Here.
19-1, Clark Kissick.
Here.
Vicky Kissick. Here. 22-1, Harry Averett.
Here.
Karen Kopelchek. Here. 23-1, Gary Becker.
Here.
Jessica Walker.
Here.
24-1, Jeff Rainey.
Here.
Kathy Rainey.
Here.
Awesome. Thank you, Bert. And you may have heard me joking around when I heard somebody had bought a proxy and said Gold Star. That is an awesome thing. No matter what, our schedule is always on the web at CampbellCountyRepublicans.com under events. And all the meetings are planned out all the way to March of 2019. So you know when they are. Make sure you send a proxy if you can't make the meeting. Now that's kind of hard to tell the group because you're here. The folks that aren't here are the ones that need to hear that, okay? It just has to be somebody from the precinct in order to carry your proxy. Nobody can carry more than 2 proxies. So if that helps you at all. So it's really important that you do that. It's a cultural change. This is something that it's going to take a while for us to get in the habit of doing, but we need to do that every time to make sure that we have full representation. Vice Chairman.
Chairman Gerard, I just want to let you know that I had several people tell me that they will be arriving late because of their work schedules.
Okay.
So
Yep.
we will be keeping track of them as they come to the door.
Awesome, great, yeah, and thank you all for coming. I know that this is a big imposition, 3 hours on a Thursday night. You'd rather be at home watching Big Bang Theory or something, I don't know. But I really appreciate you being here. This is the most important session that we're going to have before our precinct caucuses and the convention, so I really appreciate you being here. So, next thing on the agenda, we're coming to the committee reports on fundraising.
Chairman Gerard and precinct persons, fundraising committee report is that we have secured the complex for June 2nd for the Pink Elephant Ball. We are currently talking to a couple of different speakers for that event, and we will be having a fundraising committee meeting on February 13th at the Arbuckle. If anybody would like to be on that fundraising committee, please come join us. We're just really starting to get geared up and talking about who's going to cater it, how it's going to be decorated. All the fun stuff is starting to begin. All the legwork has almost come to an end as far as having everything lined out. So again, if you'd like to join us, February 13th, 6 o'clock at the Arbach Hall.
Thank you. How many NRA members do we have here? Can we get a show of hands?
NRA?
Just me? We're all NRA members? Awesome.
NRA.
Could you guys call the NRA and ask them to get Dana Loesch here for June 2nd? I've got the request in. I'm waiting to hear back from them. We need to hear back soon so we can get tickets printed.
That was Dana Lesh.
Dana Loesch? Loesch? Oh, I always say Loesch. I say it wrong. Dana Loesch. If we could get her, if we can get her here, it would be awesome. It would be a big draw for the party, obviously. So if you can make phone calls to the NRA, if you know somebody, or even if you don't, call them and say, hey, we really need to get her here. It would be helpful, just to hopefully give them a little kick in the pants. Okay, training and education. Partner Janice.
Okay, our committee has been working really hard between myself, Janet, Vicki, and Kathy Rainey. We've been working on putting together this manual that should last for a while. Hopefully, it's mostly generic information. It starts with having a guide for the Central Committee is in the middle, and this goes over some of the basics of precinct people, what they do, the organization of the Central Committee, that the precinct people make up the organization, or the precinct people make up the Central Committee. And out of the Central Committee, if you're in your manual, like on page 2, talks a little bit about grassroots. We're part of the grassroots. We're the people that make things happen. The boots on the ground, so to speak. Our county party organization, the Campbell County Republican Party, is made up of all registered Republicans in the county. And we amount to approximately 50,500 people that are registered as Republicans in this county. Those Republicans vote on you guys, the precinct people, to represent them and throughout the normal course of business. And there are 86 precinct positions. They make up the Central Committee. And there's 86 precinct positions. There's 34 precincts, 37 precincts. Okay, I gotta trick you out. And then kind of even a smaller leadership group is the executive committee, which is Doug, the chairman, Vicki, the vice chair, a state committee woman, and we have a state committee man. Dave, you can see he's listed. It has our contact information also. Then some rah-rah, why we are a Republican. We're liberty-minded, constitutional believers. Then you have a timeline of events. You see that page 4? This is laid out kind of different. We, in our timeline right now, we are looking at the bottom where it says precinct caucus. And our precinct caucus is coming up February 17th. That's what we're here to learn about. So in the timeline for the rest of this even year, 2018, we have the precinct caucus, then the county convention, then the state convention. There's another sheet in front of your folder actually has the dates of those events. Then you go back up to the top of the calendar and you'll see there is filing information. If you want your name on the ballot at this next election, you need to go down to the clerk and sign up saying, I want to run as a precinct person in my precinct. The more people that go down and put their names on the ballot, the more likely you are to be elected. Many times, if there's no name on the ballot, then you write in a name. A lot of times that name's not valid. First time I got elected, It took 2 votes. Roy Edwards is in my precinct. He said, Barb, if you write your name down, I'll write your name down. You'll probably get elected. That's exactly what happened. The next year, or the next election, I went down and signed up to be on the ballot. I don't know how many votes I got, but I'm here. So that's important, really, to get your name on the ballot so people can vote for you. Then in June is the fundraising event. In August is our primary election. September, what goes on in September? Oh, then we're supposed to get the election results. Then we have an organizational meeting. That would be the first meeting, really, that people would come to, is after the election in August. Then we have an organizational meeting in October. That's kind of where we figure out who has been elected, how many positions are still open, and where we kind of set a plan for the next year. So that just kind of helps you follow along in your timeline of events. When you're elected or appointed as a precinct person, your term is 2 years. So it's not that long. It's almost over already. And the next page, page 5, is just a little bit about things you might want to be doing as a precinct person to promote the Republican Party, to get your precinct residents active and voting, and not to vote. Then page 6 is a little bit about our central committee meetings. Like this is a central committee meeting where we talk about different issues. So we have central committee meetings, and then on page 7, it talks a little bit about the precinct caucus, which again, that's what's coming up. That is the big deal, the precinct caucus. That's where you want to get to know your precinct people. You want to know how they feel. If we had a
We're going to cover that extensively
yes,
today.
yes.
So,
Doug's
so,
gonna,
so,
Doug's
yeah,
gonna go through a lot of that, because that's a big deal for us. And then we have the county convention, page 8. And then on page 9, we've got 9, 10, 11 is all about how to write a resolution. Because I know it was very confusing to me, like, why do you have all the whereases in there to be resolved, and what, why do you do it this way? Well, this information will explain that. I'm not sure if you're going through much of that tonight.
We'll go over a little bit of it. It's part
Okay.
Part of the whole thing, to understand the difference between platform resolutions and bylaws.
Okay. And then at the very back is your elected officials. And then in the front of the folder, you have the timeline. You have the 2018, the people that are going to be, that are up for re-election this coming August. That's about 4 pages. There's probably also the 1% sales tax coming up. And then you have a list of the precinct people that are in position right now.
Make sure you know your fellow precinct person is.
That's right.
Most of you should, most of you probably do, but make sure you know, because you guys have to coordinate for the precinct caucus coming up.
And one thing to look at on this is you have your precinct off to the left. Then it's also listed what House district you're in, what Senate district you're in, and if you're in the city, what ward you're in. And that will tell you, you can reference this to that, who your elected officials are, and find out who is in your district, your House district, or your Senate district.
You're a senator.
Oh, on this. What else? Make sure that your email is correct, because we take this Excel file and Doug uploads it into our website, and if the email address is incorrect, then a lot of times you won't be getting emails because I have it incorrect. So double check your contact information and your emails. Yes, please. Okay. So you can tell me afterwards. And, last but not least, in the back of the book, in the back pocket is the bylaws for the county, for our county. They were, you can also find these online on our website. But this just basically tells you how we operate as the county party, Republican Party. How we vote, the meetings, different things like that.
Where's the state convention?
It's in there, it's going to be in Laramie this year, April 17th through 19th, if I remember properly. And if you get elected at county convention, we will be electing, I think we're going to have somewhere near 40 some odd delegates, and we will be electing them to go there. One of the things that I'd like to see done is us charter a bus to go down Friday night, or so you can be down there for Saturday and then come back Sunday morning. There's the Hilton Garden Inn. You can start, you can't really get reservations yet because you don't know if you're going to get elected. But that's where it's going to be at. It's going to also be in conjunction with the university as well.
I also have a question about the bus. So, do you have to be 5'1", or can I
Has to be
serve
from your
as
precinct.
her?
No, it has to be from, you has to be,
Okay.
your proxy has to be carried by somebody from your precinct.
Okay,
That
Yeah.
is a registered Republican, and is
Okay.
on the list.
thank you.
And as far as the state also has bylaws, and they have, out on the state, you can find the platforms and resolutions that have been passed last for 2016. Those, you can just go out to the state website, there is reference to that website in this, and just download it.
Wyoming.gov.
Yeah.
Senator Van Slotteren is not on the elected officials page. I'm not sure if it was a formatting issue, but you do have his contact information on this sheet. So I apologize for the whole committee and just recognize that. So I know that we did some massive formatting to make everything fit on this amount of pages, and I would say that that's probably what happened. So we just ask for grace on that. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Flattering. On the elected official list. Okay, are there any questions? Time. A lot of this information too will end up being on our website, the county website.
The manual of the guide and things we're going to put up there. But it's important for you to keep this around. I mean, it really kind of details everything that you've got to do as a precinct person. We're going to talk extensively about that tonight. So, can everybody give Barb and her cohort So, thank you. Thanks, Barb. Which brings us to our platform bylaws and resolutions, and none of these guys are there, and they gave me a laser. How silly is that? Anyway, Ed, Rich, and Dave are off doing other things tonight, so I'll step in for them. The big thing to know about is we have on March 3rd, to Saturday, there's going to be the resolutions, the convention, the county convention resolutions, bylaws, and platforms committee, or whatever the proper name is. I like to call it PPR because usually it is. But, and that, it would be very good to get as many folks on that as we can. It's a lot of fun. It's really a fun thing to do. It's going to take you about 6 or 8 hours to go through it. We'll provide you a lunch. Pizza's always good. It's great for policy wonks. I think it's the best thing that the party does. I mean, I think it's, you just learn so much about so many different issues and what people think about things. Even if you don't agree with a particular resolution or a particular idea, you learn how to put your mind around it and get to understand it. And I think that that's a useful thing. And so it's really an important thing that we have that committee and that people go and attend it, because that committee is going to take all the resolutions, all the platforms, all the bylaw changes from all the precincts, put them together and compile it into one document, merge all the ones that are similar together, so all the pro-life ones go together, all the ones for pro-Second Amendment, all that stuff goes together. And you get into some good conversations, because sometimes you have resolutions that are really close, but they say just one sentence difference. And like, is that important to include? Is it not? You learn a bunch of stuff. So I'd recommend that you think about doing that. As precinct folks, you're going to be asked at the precinct caucuses to select one person at least from your precinct. I'm hoping, so if we can get that many people, it'll make it go that much faster. Because there's, I think, 13 categories of resolutions, I can't remember, that can run. If we can get it divided into groups, have them go off, do that, and come back, and then go through it all as a group, it'd be really, really worthwhile and useful. We'll have a good convention because of that. Which brings us to Chairman's report. One of the things that I included was a proposed bylaw. That bylaw that I put in the package, once a quarter, the party's going to meet, and the grassroots folks, everybody's going to have a chance to talk. One of the things that in the past, this meeting monthly is new for us. We haven't done this in years, and it's been a little bit difficult, and it's slowly starting to get it to work. But we don't want to lose that. We always want to make sure that everyone has a place to speak, and that's kind of the whole point of that particular bylaw. It's just a defined, in very good terms. Yeah, there'll be a meeting each quarter. Yeah, you can bring up motions out, so that whoever follows me or what have you, if they have different ideas, they still can't shut out, folks because they disagree with them or something. It's just protection and stuff like that. So all of that. Wanted to emphasize the website. The website is the source of all things Campbell County Republican. If it's not on there, it's probably not happening. If there's a mistake, let me know about it. Let the chairman know about it. Get it fixed as quick as we can. As I said before, all of the events are on there, so that all of the events for the central committee meetings are on there until March of 19th. And so you'll have March of 2019, so that's posted under events, and it's CampbellCountyRepublicans.com. So if you have any questions about when meetings are, go there, take a look, because that's the right spot for them. So you should always know when they are. And again, that goes to the proxy thing. If you know you're going to be out of town on a day when there's a meeting, you know, because the meeting's there already, when it's going to be, so you can get your proxy and get somebody there to show up for you. Again, very important. We want as many people as we can voting on things. Okay, now we're going to move into the precinct person training. And this has been, sure. If you can write it up, I don't know. I don't have a pen, but if you can put it up, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, so Janet's going to put Senator Ron Flater's contact info on the board up there, so you can copy it down and make up. So we're going into precinct training. I wasn't supposed to do this tonight. We were supposed to have the executive director of the state party here to do it, but her dad broke his hip. And he lived in Nueva Vallarta, Mexico. So she had to go fly down there. Puerto Vallarta is one of my favorite places in the world. It's one of the best restaurants in the world. Talk to me afterwards. It's great. But she had to go down and she couldn't make it. She's off taking care of her dad. So you're stuck with me. So I'm making this up as we go along. She's giving me her presentation and what she was talking about. And it's more of the holistic view of what it means to be a precinct person. And then we will go into the precinct caucus stuff specifically afterwards. So starting off, what are your duties as a precinct person? It's not defined anywhere. One of the things that drives me nuts, I'm a software engineer by trade, so I like to see things written down. I like to know what's who's responsible for what has to happen, etc. But it's not written down everywhere. So I'll give you what my interpretations of the duties are, and you can decide what you think on your own. First off, attend the meetings. That's the big part. That's the big thing. Your being here is a big deal, I think. It's a great way to get word out about things that we're talking about. And as we've talked about several times, proxy. you're not here, please make sure you get in with that. I think that's the last time I said that. Participation is the key to all of this. Your guys being here is awesome. It really tickles my heart to see you guys here because it's nice to see people have to be pulling in the same direction that we're going. And one of the things that attending the meetings does is that politics has been very divisive of late. The quarter-cent tax payment was pretty nasty on both sides. I heard lots of things from both sides of the thing. It was really, for me, a wake-up call. And I think one of the reasons why is that on social media, you're faceless, you're nameless. You can say something, people can say things, and it get taken out of context. But meeting, talking with people every month or so, it humanizes the person. It reminds them, this is the person you're talking to. And I said last meeting, and I'll say it again, look around, who you're sitting next to. If you're sitting next to folks that you know and you agree with politically, you're probably doing this wrong. Get to know somebody that you don't agree with. You'll find out, hey, they're decent folks. They're looking out for their kids and their family too. It's just the same. There's the same kind of thing that it just puts a face on the name, and it just gets rid of this thing, and it gives you a way to put a face to and an understanding of what people might think and all that. Duty, keep your precinct folks informed about what's going on. Getting out, reaching out to them, letting them know, hey, we're meeting. We're talking about stand your ground amendment. Is this important to you? Letting them know about that, reaching out, that kind of thing, that's important. And finally, there's two last things all centered on the precinct caucus. Get your Republicans in your precincts to show up. That's why you're here. That's why you got the phone lists. Hopefully you'll call them. We're going to be doing advertising on the electronic billboards to get as many people as we can into the caucuses as we possibly can. Because I think we're doing something new. We're having our caucuses at Campbell this time. How many people have been to a caucus before? About half the room. So, how we try to do it at the library and it gets really kind of muddled and you don't know who's talking to who and what? Well, every precinct's going to have their own table. They're going to be able to sit down, talk, and really run the thing properly without, having to worry about concern. And that's why I'm great to see so many of you here today that we can go through and understand what we're doing. And then finally, running the precinct caucus. That's the next big thing. And that's what we're all here to learn how to do today. So, this is the beginning of what Christy Wallen was going to do, the grassroots to victory. Because really, we are the grassroots. This is it. What you guys do, reaching out to your precinct folks, is the important grassroots stuff. What we're going to discuss, and we're kind of already talking, what's the big picture? Talking about the humanizing the politics, getting out there, getting out the Republican point of view, making sure folks are aware of who our candidates are and what they stand for. That's what we're here to do, and make sure that we get Republicans elected. The next big thing is that we've got to cultivate the meaningful relationships to make sure folks understand why we're Republican. Make sure they're Republican too, because we know our values, our Republican values, are what people want in this state. That's what we've been a Republican state for years, and we're going to remain that. But Democrats are making inroads. They're spending more and more money to coming after our candidates. And last election cycle, they went after a number of close elections with a really kind of questionable tactics by spending lots of money. And we need to be ready for that. And the only way we can do that is through you guys reaching out and talking to your precinct folks. Understanding the fundamentals of how to do it, which is really just cultivating personal relationships is what it really comes down to. And we'll talk a little bit about volunteer recruitment, organizing, door-to-door canvassing, and phone banking, which is probably something we don't do enough of here in Campbell County. But wait, I can tell you how to do it, and you can, with the little software that I wrote, you can actually do a phone bank, a virtual phone bank. So folks can just use their cell phones, get numbers to call, and call them. It was used for Darren Smith's campaign last cycle for Congress, and a couple other campaigns as well. So the calendar here is a little goofy because it starts off here in July, and for the elections, this is really right. You want to start organizing around here and all here, but the same thing applies for precinct caucuses, just on a much tighter scale. You got to get started early, reaching out, finding out who can volunteer, who can do things for you, organizing your data so that you understand who you have to talk to, know what's going on. So that's kind of an important thing. Our goals. This one here, we really don't do because we don't do voter registration here in Wyoming. There is a way to do it, but it requires an act of Congress, 3 donuts, and I think a small pig. But to do it, it's just a very difficult thing to do. Persuasion, talking about Republican values, why we are Republican. That's another big thing. Making sure folks know what our values are. This goes up and down. This goes from all the way from our elected officials all the way down to us normal voters. This is what we believe, and making sure folks understand that. And then finally, at the election times, the primary and at the general election in November is getting the turnout. And I can guarantee you here, whoever our Republican nominee for governor is, we have to get the turnout up here because Mary Throne has connections up here to Gillette. She's going to have a big operation here. I already know a couple people working on it. Okay, so we need to make sure that we get our votes out and we get our Republican governor elected. Okay, fundamentals of victory. Pretty easy. Get your volunteers, organize them, get them out door to door, talking to folks. Wyoming's a shoe leather state. I go through at least one set of cowboy boots, more likely two every election season, depending on who I'm campaigning for. It's some districts are very hard. My district, for House District 3, the one I ran, it runs all the way, half up near the airport, all the way down to Lost Springs, down in, which is huge. I mean, it's like twice the size of the state of Connecticut. So some districts are harder. Other ones are just downtown. When you go door to door, you get it all done. So that's an important thing. And then finally, again, we've got the phone banking, calling folks. And that's really, the phone banking is best for get out the vote efforts. Calling to get folks to go vote or come to the precinct caucuses. Phone calls, get them to commit to do all of that. Okay? Again, and all of this, of course, is based on the importance of relationships. The relationships that you establish with each other here, with your executive committee, with the folks in your precinct. When you get folks interested in coming to help and do things, they'll start, giving them a voice and giving them an outlet of where they can come and talk about things. Again, another reason why we have these monthly meetings. Giving them a voice to be able to come out is really an important thing. I think it's the most important thing we do. Being able to be heard, even if you can just get it off your chest, even if nothing happens, is better than, and people know where you stand, it's better than to just say nobody ever listens to me. And quite frankly, one of the reasons that I get so excited about politics is that I really get upset when I hear there's no difference between Republicans and Democrats. They all say the same thing, get elected, and then do what they want to do. That drives me nuts. That's why I love the Republican Party and the Republican Party politics, because, we can say this is what it means to be a Republican. This is what we want to say, and we should. I'm a very big proponent of that. People will volunteer to help their favorite candidate, but the more important thing is that they're going to stay because of what you do to help them and the relationships that they establish while they're doing it. So getting them involved at the caucus level is a really important thing because you'll start a relationship. You'll be able to reach out to them and say, hey, can you help me put some stamps on some envelopes? I've got 300 of these things to get out to precinct folks. 3-4 folks will come over and help. It's an important thing. They'll understand the importance of it. When you're talking to folks, you start getting to politics, probably one of the best things to do is starting the discussion is relate why you're a Republican. I'll kind of ask a couple of questions, just kind of go down these three territories, these 4 categories here. And let's say, Rod, how has being a Republican impacted your life? How would you say that to somebody?
How has it impacted my life?
Yeah. If you didn't know me, how would you say, being a Republican is really kind of helped because?
I would say that after looking at the platforms that we stand on, as a conservative, looking at the Democratic platforms, I think I would stand on the Republican platforms as a base to start with.
No, that's great. And Shirley, why do you care enough to get involved?
Because if you don't like the direction something's going, then you have to step up and take a stand in that. There's a lot of apathy out there and a little intimidation, and so you think that somebody else will step up, somebody else will take care of it. And, that's not the case. You have to step up and have your own voice.
Awesome. Let's see. How about Gary? What was the outcome of your being involved with the Republican Party?
I think it's important to put forth the principles that a lot of us stand for, such as more freedom of choice, not having the government tell us how we should live our lives, what we should do.
Awesome. And finally, let's see, somebody over here. Commissioner Kissinger. Why are you a Republican? I'm a Republican because.
Because Democrats want to take our money.
I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so once you've got talking to somebody about politics, and you find, hey, we have shared interests here. We believe in some of the same things. Maybe not all of the things, because that's another thing that didn't put up there that probably should have. How many people here believe in 100% of the Republican platform? Raise your hand. Didn't think so. How many believe in about 80% of it? Yeah, that's it. That's all we could ever really ask for. Ronald Reagan, although I like to use Mike Enzi because he's local, has it the 80-20 rule. We asked the Republicans, that if you believe in 80% of what we stand for, you're one of us. We may not agree on everything, but we do agree on the 80%. Now the thing is, the 80% Shirley and I agree on aren't going to be the same that the 80% that Troy and I agree on. It's going to be different. Okay, the Republican Party, though, has to stand for 100% of it. So even if you disagree with something, you still have to stand for it as a Republican, because that's, you're allowed your own views, but in a Republican view, I think that's an important thing. And so when you're sharing that with folks and you find that you have the 80% that you agree with, you want to try and get them to commit to something, as the conversation is drawing to the own. And these are just some things that you shouldn't say. Say, do you have time to volunteer? No, don't say that. If you're not too busy, don't say that, because everybody's always too busy. Trust me, I hear that a lot. Could you give your time? No. Instead, go home and say, hey, we need you to get involved. Can you come and participate? Send these things out. Can you let us know what you think about X, Y, Z? Come to a meeting, come to whatever. Get them, when you do that, the hard ask, I think is what it's normally known as. When you do that, give them a bullet point. It's like, can you do this, X, Y, Z, on this date, that time? That kind of thing, and get them involved. Chances are they'll volunteer to do it. And as long as it's fun, and they have a good time and they share the values, we'll be able to share those events, or share those. One of the things that's kind of fallen out of use lately is house meetings. You have friends, maybe once every quarter, invite, call 20 of your precinct folks until you get 10 people to say yes. Invite them over for coffee and donuts or something. Just to say, hey, just want to talk about politics for you. Get them involved. Just another way to reach out. These are just some things that you can do. Their friends, neighbors, etc. And again, when you're doing it, you want to get to know them. Because again, getting that volunteer prospect pool to be open and to have more people. If you have more people to call on to do things and you know what to do with, you're doing it awesome. You're doing it right. And that never happens for an organization. You never have enough people because there's always something else to do. And if you need help getting anything, for any of this, the party's there to help. Don't be afraid to call the chairman, call the vice chairman, call everybody. Let them listen. Ask them, say, hey, I need this list. I need these numbers. Hey, could you get me this other thing? What have you? One of these precinct lists that you have, they are all of the Republicans. If you want, we can get them broken down by the Republicans that have voted in all 4 of the last primaries. Those are the big ones you want to get because they're involved. They pay attention. If you want to get them with the precinct caucuses and you want them involved in your caucus, we can get you that list if you want. And we can get who did the last 3, last 2, and even folks voted in all the last 4 elections, general and primaries. We can do all sorts of things in those data. Another thing that a lot of precinct folks do now, I've heard a number of folks that said postcard updates. And that will invite people to the precinct caucuses, just sending out postcards to the precinct. And they've paid for it too, which I think is awful cool. Now, our party is in a little bit better financial shape through the efforts of Chairman Smith and the State Committee Woman Mayer and their efforts of the speaker they got last go around. They blessed us with a little bit of a pocketbook, and we can help with that too. Of course, you'll have to come to the executive committee, explain your need, and let the executive committee figure out what they need to do for that. And you can use that to invite people to a house meeting as well. You know, this is probably the best way to do things. I think, you know, you need somebody one-to-one. Make sure you talk to them. You know, when you have things, when you have someone's attention and you're talking politics, hey, see if you can get them to help out. You know, identify it. So, you know, when you're, you know, identify who you can talk to in your precinct. Go out there, set it up, share your story. You know, just like we talked about just now. Present a challenge for them to meet. That's a hard ask. You know, saying, can you do this on such and such a date at such and such a time? You know, and make sure that, you know, give them a challenge. Say, listen, how am I going to reach all of these people? And well, if I only had a volunteer, you know, and make them the center of the solution, because, you know, it feels good when you're solving problems. And then finally, you know, make that hard ask, get them to participate. And, you know, the precincts are, I think, are the first example of where you can put that to use. And we talked about door to door, and it is the one thing in Wyoming that gets votes more than anything else. If you go door to door, if you go to every door, you knock on and you say, hi, how are you? Whether you do it for your candidates, whether you do it for just the Republican Party, if you do it for whoever, you know, you do it for your precinct, that's the way you do it. You get to know the people in your precinct. I mean, Wyoming's an interesting state. It's a little bit more spread out than I think most folks are used to. But we talked to, I always find it funny when I was talking to the GOP data center guys, explaining that Campbell County is the size of Connecticut, and there's only 55,000 of us. They don't understand that. They have no idea what that means. It's really kind of funny, because they're used to having, you know, 55,000 people. That's 2 city blocks. You know, and so it's a much different thing. Finally, phone banking, and this is kind of something that we don't do a lot of, but when you do it, it's great for getting the vote out. When you do it, make sure you have a script ready. You know, it doesn't have to be very formal, but just know what you're going to say. Announce who you are. You know, why you're calling, what you want to talk about, and see if you can get them in. And then when you've done all of that, if you've got several people calling, you know, get everybody together, debrief, and find out what worked, what didn't. Keep notes. Share that with folks. You know, I'm sure your fellow precinct folks would love to hear, hey, how did you get 300 people at the precinct caucuses? That'd be fun. But, you know, how did you get 30 people at the precinct caucuses? Well, I called them. Well, what'd you say? Because I did that. Nobody showed up. You can compare notes. You know all that. So that debrief is really good. And again, the party's there to help. We can do all of it. We can help with those things, give you phone lists, and even software tools to help you do that on the web. Now, this is what you really came for, I think, the precinct caucuses, because this is the big deal, February 17th. As I said, we've got Camplex, it's at Frontier Hall. Everybody that is going to the, that will be there, we have lots of space. We should have lots of space for everyone at all the different tables. We should have a caterer of some kind of concession there. I think Smiling Moose is going to be it. We were going to do food trucks, but Campbell didn't want us to do food trucks, so we're not doing that. But there's, you know, try and get Smiling Moose there, so for $5 you can get one of their nice big sandwiches or what have you. So we'll have lunch there, and so you can visit with folks as well. We're trying to make it as big a deal as we can. We really need to get as many folks as we can involved. The order of the precinct caucuses, the way things are going to go, we're going to come in, 10 o'clock, we're all going to sit down, just like one of these meetings. We're going to start, everybody seated. I'm going to be called to order, invocation, pledge, chairman's remarks, roll call to central committee members. You know, this is important, so we know who's all there, who's running which caucus. Instructions from the party chairman, if there are any. You divide it by precincts. Everybody should be seated at their individual tables there, and then we'll go into the actual precinct caucuses themselves. Before the precinct caucus, understanding what you're doing. Why are we there? What is the real point of the precinct caucuses? 3 reasons, really. First is bylaws, platforms, resolutions. We want to get those proposals from each precinct. We want to get them approved by each precinct so it can go to the county convention. That's the first thing. 2, to give our fellow Republicans a chance to stand up and say stuff. What do they want? What do they want us to hear? Well, we need to hear all of that. And then finally, we will also, you know, I always have various data gathering techniques that I like to use so that we can expand our mailing list, so that we get out, keep reaching, keep people in touch, and keep people engaged. I hope most of you feel like you're engaged and know what's going on. We've been trying email-wise to do that and to expand that list, and I think that's a big part of it. And certainly, you know, like Bill Dolan came here for a governor's meet and greet today. We didn't find out until last week or until yesterday that it was happening, and it took me a while to get it out. But we do get that out there, so you're before the caucus, you really should get together with your precinct person. Because, well, and some of you have 4, so you're gonna have to debate how you want to do this. I don't want to tell you how to do that. I want you guys to do it. I want you to feel ownership. That this is, you do it the way you want to. Still have to follow Robert's rules and all that silliness that we do for these meetings, but, you know, you can organize things the way you want. You know, we need 1 caucus chair, and we need 1 caucus secretary. You guys decide how you want to do that. You can either meet up and say, oh, I want to do the chair. You want to be the secretary? Perfect. That'd be good. You can elect them at the caucus if you want. You can do whatever you want. It's up to you. As long as we have a caucus chairman and a caucus secretary for each precinct. Let's see. Okay. Now, understanding bylaws, platforms, and resolutions. This is the thing that always gets us tripped up at every caucus, is understanding the difference between these 3 things. And the importance is, a bylaw is, you know, it's the rules and regulations that govern how the party operates. And we've talked about that a little bit. We'll actually have one in the agenda, which I'm sorry I forgot to print out. But that was actually there so that, again, to encourage and ensure grassroots participation. And folks may have other things. You probably aren't going to get a lot of these. Maybe 1, maybe 2. Crazy people like me will have 3. But, you know, we will have, and then the bylaws are in your packet as well. You know, now who can tell me what a platform is? What it actually means to have a platform statement? Anybody want to take a shot at that? It's on the screen, but it's kind of, you know, does anyone want to give us what their interpretation of a platform is?
It's a basic belief.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Mary. And you know, it's the important thing about these is that they're timeless. They're like the things that we want to do. We're constitutional. We believe in the Constitution. There's a number of them. You know, we believe that the rights of I can't remember. There's another one that I have there. Citizens of the United States are the ultimate authority. Government possesses powers derived only from the consent of the governed, i.e., only our rights only come from God. You know, that's something that our party believes in. Democrats don't. Matter of fact, God got booed at our last national convention. Could you imagine that? And then finally, what about resolutions? You guys got a good feeling what a resolution is? You have an idea? What would you think is a resolution?
Results, it's a statement of fact.
Right. And typically, for us, resolutions deal with individual issues of the day. And so having a good understanding of that before you get to the caucus, go through the state bylaw, the state platforms, read our bylaws, and understand and go through the resolutions, because there's a number of different ways resolutions can be written. It's kind of covered in how to write a resolution. It's really important to get the format right. We will have a sheet there, template form, to make it really easy to do, but it's something that, you know, getting it right with all the wherefores, this and that, kind of lays out how to do it. And we'll have a sheet that'll make it easy for you as well. You know, caucus tasks. What are the things you guys have to do as part of precinct chairs and precinct secretaries? Most important thing, get bylaw changes, platform statements, and resolutions. Those are the 3 bigs right there. And then the 4th thing is probably the most important thing, is electing your county convention delegates. Every precinct will have at least 2. And Chris, help me out. I don't remember. Are precinct people automatically going to the convention? I don't think so. I don't remember.
Precinct committee man and the committee woman are automatic delegates.
Okay. So you may only have your precinct may only have 2 precinct folks, in which case you're going.
But in the bylaw, I looked that up earlier.
It didn't say that in there?
But when there's that 2, there's the precinct committee man, the precinct committee woman, and then you get to elect 2 delegates also. And then you would have 1 alternate for each person.
So that'll put the number up around 200 delegates. Does that sound right?
It could be something like that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I didn't think it was that big, but okay, good. No, that's good to know. Okay, so as precinct folks are going, that's the good thing. Except in precincts that have more than 2. I think that we have 2 precincts like that, in which case, I guess you have to have an election amongst those 4 as well. So
They all go, basically you take 86 precinct positions now and double it, right? So if they have 4 people in your precinct, you can have 4 delegates that vote. If you have 4 precinct people, you also get to have 4
There may be 4 delegates, but only 2 of those, I think, are the precinct folks. Is that? We'll have the answer to that. We'll have the answer to that one before you.
2 of the 4 are your precinct committee man and committee woman.
Pardon?
2 of the 4 are your precinct committee man and
Right.
committee woman.
Okay. And we'll have the exact number of delegates and everything for you in your precinct packet at precinct caucuses. It should be.
Would that be in the bylaws? You know, if I were to want to find out that?
It is in the bylaws, but the way that it's written, if I remember right, is that she'll have at least 2 delegates and is nearly proportioned according to, percentage of population of Republicans to their precinct. I can't quite remember the language, but there's lots of fun ways that I've done spreadsheets on this that kept me awake nights.
But if I wanted to, if I was interested in looking at it this week, I could go and look at the bylaws.
Sure, yeah, you've got it in your folder again. Yes,
Right.
Yep. Hey, if you want to heck with that, there you go. And so, and then, the electing the delegates, and then finally, we talked about the fun platform resolution committee. I can't emphasize enough how important that is. It is the most important committee, and it's fun. I know it sounds boring, but it is a lot of fun, especially if you're a policy wonk like me. I like to talk policy and different ways of looking at things. It makes things very interesting. So then finally, now, getting back to the order of the precinct caucus, getting started. Precinct chairman, you're the one that has to call your caucus to order. Following that, precinct secretary will have an attendance sheet for you so that you can go through and do the call. So you can take attendance so that we know who's here. We'll ask for email address, phone number, all that other fun stuff. Then we get into the three big steps of all of this. I think it's very important. Again, you can run your caucus the way you want to, but I think it's very important to bring things up. We're going to do the bylaws first. Whoever the precinct chairman is, make sure you practice a little spiel. About what a bylaw is, what a platform is, what a resolution is. Because the folks at the table aren't going to know. They're going to have questions. They're not going to know how to write a resolution or how to write a platform plank. You have to be the expert in that. Now, the executive committee will be there, and they will have, and the ones that are not in there running their own precincts, like me, I'm not a precinct person, so we'll have folks. There'll be folks that like me there to help make things happen. And finally, then we get to the electing of the delegates. This you can do any number of ways. And again, you can decide how you want to do it. One way to do it, take a nomination, vote on them, check, that's that person. Then wait for another one to do the same thing. Or you can say, all right, let's get a list of all the people that might want to be it, might want to go to the convention. And then have everybody write out the names that they vote for and then do all the counting. I like the first way better, it's faster. But you can do it any number of ways. When we actually do the election of delegates to go to the state convention, we'll get all the nominations, and then everyone will get a ballot that they get to write their top 24, 44, or how many are, in the order that they want them to go, and you'll vote on those that way. But that's how we do it for the state convention, and that's a little bit different. And it'll be easier. Hopefully you'll have 8 to 15 people at your table, maybe more in some of the bigger precincts. Hopefully the advertising that we're doing. Did I mention we're doing advertising? I'll send out the thing the guy came up with. It's on the electronic billboards. That'll be up the week before. It actually looks really cool. It has the new logo and everything else. And then, when you get them all nominated and stuff, we'll have to get them reported to the precinct secretary after we report them. Ask for volunteers for this, again, stressing how much fun it is. Hey, it's got pizza. How bad could it be? Let's see. And then finally, what you've all been waiting for is to get to adjourn. And after you adjourn, there's a number of things that we have to get, all of the paperwork for them, the attendance sheet, bylaw changes, the adopted platforms, resolutions, all that fun stuff. Let's see. And I guess that's it. That's all I have. Are there questions? I mean, did I go too fast? Did I give you guys enough to know? I mean, you guys are going to be the ones that are going to make this successful. I mean, we've now told you as much as I know.
So I remember every other year. That was the last, it's every other year, right?
Every other year is precinct caucus.
So 2 years ago, we did the caucus, but then the next week, I think it was the county convention.
Yes, and for ours, good point, bring up a little bit about the county convention. The county convention is March 10th. We're having ours, not the earliest, but it is kind of early. The third we're doing is when the resolutions committee is meeting. The reason why we're doing it on the 10th is that, one, it's a little bit earlier than most of the others. There's only one earlier than us, and that's Laramie County. But we are going, or the plan is right now to have a straw poll for governor. Get our party some press, let's try and get all the governor candidates up here that have announced so far. Because I think it would be very good for whoever ends up winning that straw poll is going to carry a lot of thunder going into the actual election season.
But Doug, just remember we went to the county convention later, and a lot of people were upset, how come this happened? They didn't come to the county convention, or they didn't come to the caucus.
Oh, right, oh, yeah.
It felt like there was a gap there, not knowing.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we are doing the advertising. It's one of the reasons why you guys are all here tonight, is that the biggest thing that we're doing is trying to get folks educated about how our caucus system works. If you remember last go around, the county convention, we all went for Senator Cruz for president. And you guys elected me to send me to national convention. Thank you, that was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. And if you remember, there was a lot of outrage that the, Main Street Republican didn't get a chance to voice his support of President Trump, and people were mad about this. They called us a bunch of insider trading so-and-sos, all sorts of nasty stuff. And that's really not the case. I mean, Wyoming used to have a primary election. Do you know why we stopped it? Anybody have a clue? I bet you Matt knows.
What's this?
Why we stopped having a presidential primary? It's actually Clark's favorite subject, money. Because elections are expensive. How much did this 1/4% tax election cost the county? I think she got it under $20,000 if I remember right. But is that number right, Pat? It was 10,000. Okay, under 20,000. I got my numbers twice as wrong there. But and if I remember right, Ms. Saunders did an awesome job keeping the cost down, which I think is great. But typically I think the budget number is $20,000 for an election. Simple, okay? And that's just for our county. Bigger counties, it costs more. Imagine how much an election costs in really big cities like Denver or something. But because of the costs and the stress that it put on all the county clerk's office, we stopped doing it. Went to a caucus state where we gather at precinct caucuses and we talk about what we're doing. We talk about who we want our candidates to be, and then we would elect. Each county would get to elect either the delegate or the alternate delegate to go to national, and then the rest of the delegates are decided at state convention. Now, we don't have to worry about this time because it's an off-year election for just governor and the 5 major electeds. Who knows all 5 offices that are getting major offices that are getting elected for the state? Anybody rattle them off?
Governor, Secretary of State, Treasurer, Auditor, Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Yep, there you go. That's all 5 of them. And those are the 5 majors. Plus, we also have our congressman every 2 years coming back up, and I believe Senator Barrasso is up for election this go around as well. So it's not as big a deal. We always say, if you look at Wyoming is blessed with having great voter turnout. I don't know if you've ever looked at the voter turnout numbers, but one of the things that's really nice is that and I think this is because we have a large percentage of veterans that live in Wyoming and that have served, God bless them, that we have 65–70% turnout in presidential elections. It's less on off-year elections like this go around. It's even less at a special election. And those numbers don't necessarily, you only get about 45% in precinct or primary elections. So actually getting your vote out for the primary, if you turn your precinct out, you could win a county or win a district for a particular candidate if you get your vote out. So, it's really kind of an important thing to do. So, any other questions? Did that answer that question or kind of explain that as to why we do that? And understanding that why we're a caucus state is being able to explain that to folks is important.
And back to Joe's comment on dates, we aren't able to just randomly put events on the calendar. We have to match up state statutes and state bylaws and make that work from here up. And also after the precinct caucus, there's a deadline to get your paperwork into the committee, so on March 3rd, they're ready to go. The reason for that is to get ready for the county convention. So then the county is tasked with a deadline to get all of that paperwork together to go to the state convention. So it's all laid out.
So, and so that's, yeah, there's all sorts of rules and stuff that go on, and you have to do math, and I didn't like it so much. Anyway, so yeah, that's gonna end. So that brings us to new business, unless anybody have any questions or thoughts?
Yeah,
Mary?
before you start new. The other thing, aside from the straw poll or whatever, the Trump Cruz deal,
Yep.
at the last caucus was that we never even got to vote. We had to do that mass vote of approving resolutions and platforms, etc.
Right.
So, to my point here, how do you feel about people who bring already prepared platforms and resolutions to their precinct?
Awesome.
Do you, all right, but then how are you going to prune those down for us to have time to actually look at them, debate them, vote on each one?
That is the job of the bylaws, platforms, and
Okay.
resolutions committee. They're
Okay.
going to be the ones, and actually Dave's in charge of this, so he's gonna be the one,
Okay.
collating everything. And he's fun. Dave Winning is really fun to work with. I the first time I did it, Chris and I did it together in Dave's office. It was a lot of fun. And so we will take all of those, we will get them down, narrow them down to
Okay.
the stack, and then that stack will go at the county convention. More than likely, we are going to have a consent agenda, and we're going to take each resolution group at a time and say, does anybody want to pull a resolution for discussion off? And you'll shout out a number, and we'll take a vote. If we get 10 folks to say vote to pull that one, we'll pull it. Otherwise, it stays on the consent agenda. We vote on the consent agenda, then do the individual ones that got pulled, and do that for each category. So that's generally how we do it. Chris?
And part of the other problem that we dealt with, and Mary brought it up briefly, that in straw poll, we were limited by the national Republican Party.
Sure.
On what we could and could not do.
We don't have that restriction for the governor stuff. We can make it up.
And see, like this election, we can do whatever we want because there's not a national election. Whereas when you're voting for the president, the delegates, your state chairman, your state committee, or your national committee woman, national committee man, they meet 4 times a year with all the other states and districts of, and they make rules, and that's where we have to kind of follow that. We have to fit in certain timelines. If you're a caucus state, we start here. So many states can vote early. Nobody can vote, I think, before January 7th.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of rules with that as well.
And so you fall into that, and then when it comes to Wyoming, when the state party picks the dates and time, the dates for your precinct caucus, when they can begin, when your county convention can begin, and when the state convention will be held and where it will be held. So that it's a lot of rules.
Yeah. And with the national stuff, anybody thinks that, that the Republican Party in Wyoming is an insiders club, this and that. You ain't seen nothing to defend the national. It is amazing the way the rules were rammed down. I mean, the Trump campaign, they had, and the RNC, they had things lined out. They wanted it this way, and by golly, they got it that way. If you remember, the Monday of that convention where there was a big hullabaloo, well, how many people know Wyoming started that? Yeah, we did. The reason why is that one of the things was being able to communicate with the state committee representatives, or committee men and women, from all the different states. They wanted, the way the rules were, all the communication had, and still are, has to go through the RNC. So the RNC controls communication to the committee people. And I don't think that's right. I think that's crazy. I lost my voice chanting, trying to get the attention of the chair. If you remember, he did everything. God bless Speaker Ryan, because he did everything he could to ignore us. And he just finally walked away from the mic once, came back, walked away again. It was really kind of entertaining. was a lot of fun. I got to yell at Lester Holt too. So anyway.
Okay, one more thing for note takers. I've been going back through your emails. Where is the precinct caucus being held and where is the county caucus being held?
Oh, okay, Precinct Caucus is at Campbell, Frontier Hall, February 17th.
Okay,
Library, March 10th for the county convention.
okay, thank you.
Bart?
When, every year we go through the platforms and resolutions, do the previous platforms and resolutions, do they basically get wiped off and you start brand new? Or
Yes.
do you add to, or, so, Janet shaking her head, no, that's not correct.
I think the state changes so the platforms stay, we can write the platforms, but the resolutions are new slate.
And for us, the platforms are like new slate 2. But what's going, and just to give you, if you read the state platforms, the resolutions and bylaws committee has already done some work on this. And I know that they're going to bring their amended version of what the platforms ought to be. They've cleaned it up even better from the 19 that it's got listed right now. And they're going to present that to each of their precinct caucuses. To get that submitted, so that's going to be there. You know, you could do that too, by the way, so to give you guys a base to be from. And actually, quite frankly, that's not a bad idea as precinct folks to bring that with you and introduce that to your precinct caucus and say, hey, let's start from this. What do you guys got to add? What do you want to take out? You know, and it gives them something to do with regards to that. That's actually not a bad way to start, in fact. Resolutions are a little bit harder because they're all brand new issues. Different things matter this go back, you know, that mattered 2 years ago. So do you hear that question? No?
You said the stakers or the caucus was at the Energy Hall. Where was the caucus at?
Frontier Hall, it's the center one of Wyoming Center. Yep, center one of Wyoming Center. Yep, no worries. Anything else? Okay, going once, going twice.
Chairman Jordan. I just want to make a point of clarification before you go into new business. Chris Smith brought up about Nick Carter's party affiliation. As of October 30th of 2017, he was a registered Republican.
This actually may go back, by the way, to one of the resolutions that we have, and when we talk about it, is getting registration to be done before candidate filing. I don't like people signing up for a different party to get a different candidate. You know, I think that's not right. I don't think that preserves the integrity of a Republican primary, or a Democrat primary for that matter either. So, okay. Anything else? Okay, new business.
The parties, we should be able to like lop the things out.
Ms. Collins, where are you?
They're doing a lot, they're just
Or knuckle it.
Okay. Collins.
Then we can identify them.
Oh, I know.
Where's Patty Collins? I know she's here. Yeah, that's right, yes. You have a gentleman from your precinct. Bring in the stand your ground resolution. And do folks have a copy of that? I forgot to print everything off. I was, and we can look at it, and it's in the email as well. Stand your ground resolution from someone, please. Okay, do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay, here, having heard it first and second, is there a discussion on the stand your ground resolution? Patty Collins, motion, Chris Smith, seconded.
What is it?
Okay, the stand your ground resolution is basically, right now, Wyoming has a castle doctrine law. So if somebody breaks into your house and you shoot them, that's okay. Right now, in Wyoming, if someone threatens you and puts your life at risk and you shoot them, you go to jail for manslaughter because you don't have the right to stand your ground. You have a duty to retreat. Even if you can't retreat, you have a duty to retreat. Okay? And the idea of the stand your ground resolution is to make sure that, you know, hey, if you're armed and you're protecting yourself and you're doing it properly, that, you know, you're protected from prosecution so that you don't go to jail. And that's the whole point of the stand your ground resolution. Yes?
Well, does that mean though, if that other person didn't have a weapon and they were just hollering it per se?
No, your life has to be your life. It's stand your ground. Your life and limb have to be in jeopardy.
But how would that be if they didn't have a weapon?
Well, that's right. I mean,
How would you know
well,
they didn't have a weapon?
I don't know. Tex could beat the heck out of me if he wanted to. You know? Yeah.
Because this happened to me a few years ago. Little meth head made threats against a friend of mine, and I was there. She was an older lady. And anyway, I stood up, I stepped in, and I had a duty to retreat instead of stand my ground. And I got taken all the way to a jury trial on it. Beat it. But as law-abiding citizens, criminals need to be scared, not us.
That's a good point. So, okay, is there any, did you get the resolution? Yeah, can you read it?
And also, the example that I was given to me a couple weeks ago was, if it's the dark of the night and someone's got a banana in their pocket and they're pointing at you, do you know it's a banana? If they're coming at you to do harm, or they're big and bullish, do you know that that's not a gun? So that's what, that was the example that was given to me. So the resolution reads, whereas the citizens of Wyoming are protected in their home by the Wyoming's Castle Doctrine Law, and whereas Stand Your Ground laws rightfully affirm the rights of individuals to be any place they have a lawful right to be, and whereas the state of Wyoming is one of only 15 states that does not have a Stand Your Ground law or other recognized protections, and whereas Wyoming citizens have no protection for the use of reasonable defensive force outside the home, and whereas Stand Your Ground rightfully supports a citizen's right to protect themselves and their loved ones by the use of any level of force if they reasonably believe the threat rises to the level of being imminent and immediate threat of serious bodily harm or death. And whereas Wyoming is a rural and sparsely populated state where law enforcement may not be reasonably available, thus requiring a person to act to protect themselves and their loved ones from those that would inflict harm. Therefore, be it resolved that the Campbell County Republican Party requests and encourages the legislators representing Campbell County to draft, support, and pass a Stand Your Ground law. Be it further resolved that the Campbell County Republican Party requests and encourages the governor of the state of Wyoming to sign the Stand Your Ground law on the passage by the Wyoming legislature. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be immediately provided to Campbell County legislators to make known to them the sentiment of the Campbell County Republican Party. And be it further resolved that the chairman of the Campbell County Republican Central Committee propose for adoption by the Wyoming Republican Party State Central Committee this resolution.
Thank you. Okay, so is there any other discussion? Mr. Schulter?
Mr. Chairman, I understand, you know, the description of you have a right to be somewhere, but I mean, put in it's out here in the parking lot. Everybody's in here, and there's two people out there. Both are armed. One shoots one, and so who's guilty or both innocent? Both have a gun, and both of them have their guns out, and so the guy that lives, is he the right person, or he just the guy just didn't draw it quite fast enough? And so my question is, you know, this works pretty well if you think the other guy is the bad guy, but what if both of them are good guys? And so that's, I just asking a hypothetical question here of how this would be treated or handled.
Not speaking as the chairman, just personally, my opinion is, I think that there are 35 other states that have a fairly model law of what works. And I think by Wyoming adopting that we would be able to resolve those differences fairly. And there may be times where there still will be questions. Are you a good guy or a bad guy? What happened here? We don't know. And he said, she said, things are always going to happen. There's only those two people around. So I understand the concern, but when there's clear, when the preponderance of the evidence can show that, no, you were acting to protect your wife because she was, you know, my dad once in Mexico chased down a mother who stole my mom's purse. You know, if he did that here, hurt the guy while he did it, he'd go to jail. Does that make sense?
No, well, Mr. Chairman, I just will tell you that when you look up in Google the definition of stand your ground, Florida is the state that comes up and gives the example. And, you know, and what I just gave you was my interpretation of what Florida's is. And so it's, and what their interpretation was is one guy's dead, the dead guy can't talk, and so the live guy says, I'm not guilty, and that's the end of the story.
Well, that was the whole point of the Trayvon Martin deal, remember? Or not, it's Trayvon Martin, is that the right one?
Yeah,
that was the right one. And that was exactly the scenario that you're describing. And I think we can trust our legislators to craft the right law, but they have to know that this is something that we either support or we don't. And so that would be my comment on that. Is there any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have that.
Commissioner Earl.
Mr. Chairman, mine has to do with timing, and I wasn't sure if there hasn't been any bill drafted yet, is that right?
I believe that there is a bill drafted.
There is, okay.
I believe that there is a bill already drafted.
Okay.
I think that's why Park County got started on it.
Okay.
That's how Tim Connolly, a Republican, contacted me directly. And as soon as a Republican reached out to us, the party, by gosh, I was going to move heaven and earth to at least ensure that his resolution got heard.
The reason I ask is because legislators can only draft so many bills each, and we're getting rid of the time where if there's not a bill drafted, they're either up on their quota of bills, or I'm just curious.
I do believe everything that we're going to see tonight has either already has a bill, or a legislator's been asked to consider carrying it and is considering it. So everything that we're talking about here. Mr. Jesse.
I just want to ask, is there any other law, and I don't know, is there any other law that protects you defending yourself outside of your home?
Not that I'm aware of. Does anybody else have anything to add to that? Might know more than I do. Anything else? Ms. Gizzard?
I'd like, Mr. Campbell, would you like to?
Yeah, my only statement was, Mr. Chairman, was, and Commissioner Schober, the stand your ground law, and I would support something like that because I think it has the potential to save you from life in prison for an innocent, for a reasonable act of saving yourself or your family. But it isn't a free pass or get out of jail free card. You shoot somebody, you're still going to go through investigation. The police department, the sheriff's department, everybody's going to do their job and investigate to see if you fit under the umbrella of that stand your ground, and if that truly does protect you. So if you don't have that law in place, they can't review that. Their hands are tied, and you can come up with all sorts of scenarios that you go to jail for life or whatever over saving your family. So that would be my statement, Commissioner Schober, would be there's already laws in place and the investigations are going to continue. It's not a get out of jail free card.
Any other comments or questions?
Precinct 19-1, Vicky Kissick, I call for the question.
Oh, there you go.
Second.
There you go. Question's been called. The question having been called, all those in favor of adopting the stand your ground resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Okay, thank you. It passes. Next one. So resolution to require partisan registration prior to the opening of the candidate filing period. This is actually, there's actually a long, I can't remember who's, I don't know if, I saw from the state party that the statute, they've already got the language for amending the statute, so I'm assuming somebody has a bill for this already, to answer your question. Okay. Which is why all of these things are coming up too, by the way. I think it's important that we let our legislators know what we think. And I think, so first off, can I get a motion for this?
What, no.
This is a resolution to require, actually, did you read it? Did you read the resolution, please?
I'm trying to figure out what it is.
The one that requires candidate registration.
For this one here.
Yes, please.
My English teachers would probably be proud of me. I graduated from Campbell County High School, so if you see any of them, let them know that I can actually read. And you're thankful for that. Okay, here we go. Whereas registering to vote as a member of the political party is a solemn task, and whereas each partisan political party desires to have among its member only those committed individuals that have made the serious and honest decision to join a particular party. And whereas each partisan political party desires to promote the integrity of each primary election by guaranteeing only genuine members of that political party select the candidates to stand for election as representatives of that party. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Campbell County Republican Party propose a change to current Wyoming election statutes to require voters who desire to register for a political party or change their party affiliation must do so prior to the commencement of the candidate filing period for primary elections. Voters changing political party affiliation after the start of the primary election candidate filing period are ineligible to vote on a partisan political ballot for that primary election and shall begin affiliation with their chosen political party on the first day after the primary, where the voter's information has been entered into the voter registration system and verified. New voter registration shall be allowed to vote in the primary, provided the voter has not voted in the previous primary election. Be it further resolved that the Campbell County Republican Party requests that the Campbell County legislators draft, support, and work to amend the appropriate Wyoming statutes during the 2018 legislative session. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be immediately provided to those all state legislators to make known to them the sentiment of the Campbell County Republican Party. And be it further resolved that the chairman of the Campbell County Republican Central Committee notify all Republican chairs to encourage them to support this resolution in their respective counties. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be immediately provided to the Campbell County legislators to make known to them the sentiment of the Campbell County Republican Party. And be it further resolved that the chairman of the Campbell County Republican Central Committee propose for adoption by the Wyoming Republican State Central Committee this resolution.
Whoever wrote that was a lower than what he tells me. So does everybody understand what that means?
Not really.
Okay. Candidate filing starts typically, I think, beginning of May, somewhere in May. Basically, all it says is if you want to be a Republican, you want to be a Democrat, you want to be a Constitution Party guy, you have to file before that date starts. That way, what it prevents is people switching parties. Because right now, I can go and say, hey, I want the Democrat ballot because I want to go get the most conservative Democrat I want. Because if I thought that the Democrat was going to win, the general election, I could go switch and try and get the most conservative Democrat I want. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I don't think it preserves the integrity of what the primary is supposed to be, which is Republicans, choose your candidate. That's the way it should be. If you go and get 50 Democrats come in and vote on a particular candidate, they could switch and change the outcome of what really should have happened, of what Republicans would have wanted to see happen. And that's the idea behind the resolution. So, does that make sense? Questions? Is there any?
Clarification, are you specifically speaking to candidates filing for office?
No, it's for individual voters. They have to file before the candidate filing period starts. So before you know who even is going to run on whatever ticket, they have to file for which party they want. That way you can't play games, So if you get 3 Republicans and one of them, or one guy just running because he wants an R behind his name and he ran as a Democrat last go round. You don't want to switch that. You don't want to have those kind of games. You want Republicans choosing Republicans, Democrats choosing Democrats, and us going head to head, toe to toe, on principle.
To me, that's requiring people to, as the expression goes, buy a pig in a poke.
Okay, you're not a precinct person. Unfortunately, I can't let you speak. I'm sorry, you have to be a precinct person to speak. Ms. Horning.
Are you talking about this would apply to candidates or
No,
voters in general?
To voters. This is to voters. Voters have to file for their party before candidate filing opens.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I believe in violating
I don't think you can do that.
You have to register and not file.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
And this is the whole thing about us.
How do
You can register the same day.
I know you can,
It's closed.
Somebody moved.
yeah. But
New voters, if they haven't voted in the way the resolution is worded, new voters, if they have not voted in the previous primary election, can declare their party and vote.
So right now, if I was a Republican and I went to the primary, I could tell the precinct person that I want to vote on the Democratic ticket, not the Republican ticket, and that would
Yes, ma'am.
change my affiliation.
Yes,
Right
ma'am.
now.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're saying that that's to be null and void.
That's what we want to change. We want to make sure that it's something
So
you
you're
do
not
before.
talking about someone that's gonna come in and change the election where they're a candidate and
No.
they're gonna come in and say that I was a Democrat on this election, you know, but now I'm gonna run as a Republican.
Yeah,
You know,
it's-
and all of the people have already been
Right.
have already chosen their.
The idea is to make folks choose their party before you even know who the candidates
So
are.
you want like a closed primary?
Our primaries are technically closed now.
But
It's
you
just
don't-
that you can change your affiliation at the drop of a hat, and I don't think that's appropriate. I think a lot of folks don't.
Well, you can change it in the general and just when they don't ask you.
The general, you don't need an affiliation to vote.
Right.
You just go and you vote. The only one that matters is the primary. You want Republicans choosing Republicans. We want Democrats choosing Democrats. We want constitutionalists choosing constitutionalists. We want libertarians choosing libertarians. That's the way I look at it, and that's really what the idea is to enforce.
Chairman Gerard?
Yes.
Unless our secretary is mistaken, there has not been a motion to bring this to the
Oh,
floor for
yeah,
discussion.
but people were asking for clarification of what it stood for,
Okay.
and what it meant, and so we're kind of going through that. And then, so, are there any more questions? Yes, sir.
A couple elections ago in the governor's race, there was about 4 Republicans running, and there was a organized push by the Democrats to register Republican and skew the Republican governor's race.
That's exactly right, and that's exactly what this is designed to prevent. That's the whole thought behind this, is that you can't do that, because technically you really don't know who's running, because candidate filing hasn't started yet, so you can't shift the race. Now, you get a bunch of committed folks that really want to do it, God bless them, let them have at it, they'll just have to do it earlier now. That also makes it harder, and that's really what we want to have.
Are there other counties that have a resolution similar to this?
We are the only ones to have it so far, and they have a legislator interested in carrying it, but he hasn't committed yet.
There has been discussion at the state committee meeting.
And, yeah, well, this one also has had discussion at the state central committee. I'm sorry, there is language at the state central committee. It has had discussion at the state central committee meeting. It's part of, if I remember right, it's part of the political plan for the state party as well. So, I mean, this is something that, I think that this is probably a much finer detail that pushes it out. I think the things that they've talked about at the state level pushes it out 30 days ahead. You have to register ahead of time. I actually like the beginning of candidate filing, if that's the deadline, because it really kind of puts the rubber to the road. You have to make your decision and commit to what you believe.
Are we in discussion or is there a?
Well, okay, well, I guess we've talked about this enough. Does everybody understand what the motion is about? Okay. Is there a motion to discuss this, to consider this resolution?
I'll second.
Patty Collins, Kristen again, the second. Okay, having been moved and seconded, on to discussion. We've kind of discussed what it's all about. Let's go with, are you for or against it? Against. Okay, we'll start with the against, and we'll go against four until one side runs out, and then we'll do both.
I would just suggest that it's a waste of legislators' time, and it would water down our lists of who true Republicans are. Because in Wyoming, the Democrat ticket is never contested. I mean, it's never a contested race. You have one governor. I mean, they have one person running in each office, so there's no reason to register Democrat. And I already know most Democrats register Republican anyway. I mean, they like to say they're a Democrat, they like to be on the roll as Democrat, but when it comes to that primary, they switch, and then they switch back. That's what they do. It's good that they switch back. So our list isn't 500, or maybe an extra 20, for the Democrats that switched. We're not calling them and having to deal with them. They're just going to stay Republican. They're not going to switch back and forth. They're still going to get to vote Republican. They're just not going to be at the clerk's office registered as a Democrat, and they'll be okay with that. I just don't see that it really helps.
Does anybody else have a 4-part? Because I will respond to that. Unless someone, does anyone else have any other comments?
For it or against it?
For it.
For it. My for it is, if you do not believe in the platform of the Republican Party, at least 80% of it, as the example we gave at the very beginning, then you're not a Republican. If you're not a Republican, I don't think you should be voting on Republicans for office, Republicans for resolutions or anything else. Just stick with your party. If you want to be a Democrat and you want to vote in Campbell County, that's fine. But,
So you're
know ahead of time, that you are a Democrat. Excuse me, I lost the train of thought. I apologize for that. So, but anyway, for it, just stand up for what you are. You know, if you want to be a Democrat, then be a Democrat in Campbell County. And make your own party strong.
Did you have a point against?
I just, the only objection I guess I really have in this is that then we're just stopping the rights of an individual to choose an individual rather than a party, is what this resolution is going to do. So you're wanting the people to have to choose a party. You are either a Democrat or you are a Republican, and you're removing the right for them to choose a Republican to choose a Democrat at the poll because they think that they're a good man for the job. Where if you're a Republican, so you would change to a Democrat at the poll, and then like she says, you change back to a Republican afterwards because you don't believe in the Democratic affiliate, or what do you call it, the platform.
Mr. Mayor.
In the primary election, you're given a partisan ballot. If you're registered Republican, you get a Republican ballot that has. In the general election, you can vote any way you want.
I understand that.
So if you want to vote for independent in the general election, you still can. You're talking about the primary.
This is the primary. And again, the whole point of the bill itself, or the idea itself, is Republicans vote for Republicans, pick their best candidate. Democrats pick their best candidate, and we go at it toe-to-toe for the general.
I think the point I'm trying to make, though, is that it's not an ideal world where people say, on my honor, I'm going to vote in the way that I believe. And in Wyoming, where it's so strongly run by Republicans, Democrats will just register Republican, and instead of switching back and forth like they do now, they will just stay Republican, but they'll still have their little meetings. And the only ones that have to be registered Democrat are the ones that are doing what we're doing, or that are involved in some sort of public office. They have to be registered Democrat, and they can't switch their vote, or switch to the other party, but everybody else can. And they already do, and they just won't be able to switch back to calling themselves a Democrat in general, but it doesn't matter.
Any other comments for it?
Well, I guess just to address your point, I mean, if I were a Democrat and I wanted to vote for a candidate in the primary that believed the same set of beliefs that I do, why would I register as a Republican if I'm only being presented with Republican candidates? Those people theoretically don't have the same belief system that I do as a Democrat.
Because they want to water down obviously they want to do like they have done in the past, that no matter what we pass as a resolution, that doesn't change their goal to affect our candidate, right? So how do we actually fix that?
You're for them watering down our primaries.
No.
Guys.
No, not at all.
Talk to me when you're talking.
It's that they're going to continue to do it, and this kind of makes you feel good maybe to pass this resolution, but it doesn't solve the problem. The problem actually, in order to solve it, would be to get the vote out more on our side to counter the watering down, because the watering down will continue. You can't really stop that. You can't change them from registering as Republican and just staying Republican and watering down our precinct lists with a bunch of Democrats.
But in the primary, what he's saying is,
Are you speaking for it? You can respond.
I'm just answering.
And really, you're only allowed to speak once, but we're being nice about we're being playing fast and loose with Roberts. But okay, so does everybody have enough discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have.
Mr. Moore.
So I'm okay with bill, the timing, he said that the state party is asking for a 30-day, and
I believe, I don't know for a
that
fact.
knowing that this year's gonna take two-thirds to even get it introduced, I'm not sure, I mean, we don't wanna waste our time putting new language in there that's saying now you got 6 months instead of 1 month. I think that, I like the 30 days better, and I understand what you're saying about you have to register as a Republican. I mean, I don't know if
Do
you
you want to make a motion to amend it instead of before candidate filing?
Well, I would
It says
rather-
30 days before primary?
I would really, yes. I would
Okay,
make
so
that
a motion to amend it, so to remove the language that says, wherever it says it has to be before candidate filing, it says 30 days before the primary.
I just had one other question. Did you check to see how many people at the clerk's office this actually affects? How many change? Because I think.
I know in my election, there were about 30.
That's
You
what
know,
I was gonna
when
say.
I did it twice and I lost by 100 votes each time, 30 votes was still a lot. I mean, if I didn't have those 30 votes, I was a lot closer, you know? So it does make a difference. You know, I still had to work harder, but it didn't have to work, you know, theoretically. I mean, folks can do it. Yes?
When I worked the polls, I had several Democrats that I personally know, they changed purposely at that time.
So, I mean, so it does happen. And, you know, I think we all, and I think, and I probably shouldn't say this, but we don't live in a perfect world, but we can sure try. You know, I think most people are honest in their beliefs, and if we can, you know, I think one of the worst things that happens in Wyoming is that we don't have an effective opposition party, so we end up fighting amongst ourselves. You know, that's one of the worst things about having a Democratic Party than the Communist Party. You know, I think it's really sad because there should be it used to be Americans were Democrats or Republicans, but we were all Americans. Not so much, I'm not so sure anymore, because we don't share the same core values anymore. Anyway, so we have a motion on the floor to amend. Let's wait on that. We have a motion on the floor to amend the language to wherever it says before candidate filing to change it to 30 days before the primary. Okay, is there a second to that amendment?
Second. The windows.
Second from Mr. Avery. Okay, having been moved and seconded, is there a discussion on that? Do you guys like that better, like that worse?
No, better.
Okay, well, can we get somebody in favor first? Shirlene, why do you like that better?
Because it quantifies it more. But I see merit in what she said as well. I don't know that you're really going to change it a lot.
Okay, and that's fair. Is there a comment against that?
I like the way it was written.
Okay. Okay, so that's what we have there. Is for or against those changes?
I'm for the amendment. And being said that is that sometimes you don't know who's running until after people file. And so.
That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Well, the whole thing is, this is freedom of America. And you have the right to vote, how you want to vote, and what party you want to be in.
Nobody's taking any of that away.
And so, yes, we are, because you're stating that it needs to be done before anybody files for running.
Sure.
And so if you've got some people that are running on another ticket than what what party you're in, and you feel they'll do a better job than the party you're in, then you should have that right to vote for them. I don't think any party
Get rid of all the parties then.
should be able to take that away from them.
It's not open primary.
Okay. So that's a comment for that change. Is there any comment against that change?
I am against that change.
Why is that?
Of the overall intent of this amendment, I appreciate it. I think it's interesting discussion. But I don't agree with the overall motion. I have to side with my friend there, April Poley. But if the intent is to limit that crossover, whatever that is, 1% or 50%, and where the commissioner is limiting that window, I believe that if you're going to limit it to like 1 day, like the day before or the Friday before. You know, give them 1 day to change parties and that's it. And if they don't do it, there.
That's what the 30-day essentially does. So,
I'm saying, you got 30 days to change your party.
Well, before
I
what-
can get a lot of people.
No, it's 30 days before, it would have to happen 30 days before the primary. So if the primary is August 19th, I don't know when it is this year, they'd have to change by July 19th or thereabouts. That's what the motion on the floor is proposing. So you couldn't change on August 2nd. You'd have to do it before then. You'd have to do it before 30 days before the primary. That's the motion on the floor.
Okay.
Okay?
That's really
Any
good.
other comments?
I think it's more pure to have it before the filing, because the person needs to decide whether they're going to have Republican values or Democratic values. And it may be only 30 or so at one time, but this could blossom into something even bigger as a strategy to place somebody on a Republican ticket that's really Democrat.
And in the governor's race 8 years ago,
Yes.
that was actually done. There was one candidate that said, Democrats vote for me.
Yes.
And so that actually happened. I mean, and is that the right thing to do? I mean, y'all can make up your own mind on that. I know where I stand. So, okay, and Kevin?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see where changing this resolution, even having that resolution, will alter what a person's going to do. I come back to a criminal is going to be a criminal. If I know what the rules are, if I know how the game is played, I can go against that game, and I can facilitate enough people. I don't care if it's 8 months before the primary. If I so want to disrupt the Republican Party, I would have that opportunity to do so. I agree with Mr. Bell there, our commissioner, that I think our legislators have a lot more important issues that we need to take care of. Funding a whole lot of other things. I just don't think we need to tie them up with a resolution that I cannot see would help us.
Any other comments on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of changing the language where it says filing before the candidate period starts to 30 days before the primary, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
The nays have it, the motion fails. We're back on the original motion. We've had enough discussion, I think, on that.
Question?
Frank, can I hear the question?
Question.
Can I have a second for the question?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion as written, or the resolution as written, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
Yea, the yeses have it.
I call for
division?
yes.
Okay, can all the yeses please stand up? No, Kevin. You guys are going to have a conversation on the ride home. Tony's have it. How many do we have here? 21 have it. And Barb, are you for or against? Okay. How many people do we have here today? 34. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So we passed a resolution where we want our representatives and senators here to support language that is not the same as the rest of the states in it. So, how's that gonna work for them?
Well, what I expect will happen is at least they know we're in favor of this type of resolution. Whether they adopt the exact language, hopefully they will try to adopt the same language. I happen to know one of our legislators who always thought of it, actually wants it this way. He's the one I got the language from, so he's going to try and push it this way in. So there's the, so I think that's going to try anyway. So. Okay, next one. This is, and Vicki, if you could read this one. Resolution to allow, this is the one that had a bill attached to it. One of our legislators is considering running it. He hasn't committed to it yet. He's waiting to hear on what we thought. Resolution to allow political parties to directly select replacements of vacated elected offices. We selected the 3 replacements, or we selected 3 names for treasurer. The idea is that, and we forwarded them to the county commissioners, is that the county commissioners wouldn't get 3 names. We'd just pick one, and that would be the replacement. And that would happen for the legislators as well. So the precinct folks from that legislative district would decide who that legislator would be. Okay, so that's the idea, so it would be directly appointed. This is part of the Wyoming State Republican political plan. This is something that the state wants. The one thing that's added into this that I want, I think the Republican Party should be in charge of our members. And we should be able to either set standards for their participation or not. I think we should be able to do that. Right now, we can't. If you're elected, you're it. and we can't, people don't participate and don't want to engage for whatever reason. They're too busy, they've had different changes in their lives, who knows? But we can't replace that person. But I think we should be allowed to find our engaged person. So Vicki, if you read the resolution, please.
Only the resolution.
Only the resolution, don't have to read the bill.
Okay, good. So whereas promoting active political parties is paramount to the success of a healthy democracy, and whereas precinct persons volunteer their time, money, and talent to promote the success of their chosen political party, whereas the duties of a precinct person should be well understood, and whereas precinct men and precinct women are elected to political party committees that are independent, distinct, and separate from the county and state governments and political subdivisions thereof. Now therefore be it resolved that the Campbell County Republican Party proposes a change to the current Wyoming election statutes to allow the direct appointment of vacated elected officials. Be it further resolved that the Campbell County Republican Party proposes that the Wyoming statutes be changed to allow county and state political parties to establish duties for and management of its committee members. And be it further resolved that the Campbell County Republican Party requests that the Campbell County legislators draft, support, and work to amend the appropriate Wyoming statutes with a bill substantially similar to the sample bill appended to this resolution during the 2018 legislative session. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be immediately provided to those state legislators to make known to them the sentiment of the Campbell County Republican Party. And be it further resolved that the chairman of the Campbell County Republican Central Committee notify all Republican county chairmen and the state party chairman to encourage support of this resolution.
Okay. Is there any questions on what the resolution says and what the intent are?
I just want some clarification because I was reading through the language of the bill. As it sits right now, so Joe was appointed a precinct committee man in an absentee situation. Were we supposed to elect him? Have we already been?
No, appointing is a perfectly fine way to do it. Essentially what the bill would do is that when you are elected or when you are appointed, whatever the bylaws of that party says, of the county party would say at that time, you have to adhere to what those duties are, whatever they might be. We could pass none and just leave it as is. We don't have to do anything. This just ensures that the parties govern themselves rather than be controlled or have influence outside of the party doing it. And so the whole idea, at least for the, is that when an individual is either appointed or they are elected, whatever in the bylaws on that date is what they have to adhere to. If there's nothing there, hey, there's nothing there. They don't have to do anything if they don't want. Okay. But if there are things there, they have to adhere to them. And if they don't, and have due process and all that. It basically gives the good governance. It gives the party a way to govern itself, which is what it should. Now, it's kind of interesting because at our state legislature and at our county commissioner levels, we don't have things like recall elections in place. I'd argue that we should, only because I think people, we ought to have, if somebody's not doing their job, people ought to have a way to say, hey, wait a second, no. You got to do at least what you're supposed to do. Apparently there was a commissioner a while back, and I don't know the details of it, so this is 30, where a commissioner got ill and then passed away, but he was ill for a long time and not there. So he wasn't there doing his job. What should have been the right thing to happen? Should we have had someone there? If he's out for 2 years, is that good use of the county's money and time? I mean, that's the question. I think that we need that as well. But that's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with just at the precinct person, for us.
Because I was asking that one year when we had to fill District 52 with somebody that passed away, and the precinct people put 3 people in front of the commissioners to decide.
Right.
Would that change?
That changes. That's the first most important part of this bill, the management of the precinct folks.
So
the second bit. So if somebody wants to make a motion to amend to get rid of the managing of the party stuff, you can. But the idea is that it's direct appointment. It doesn't go to the commissioners any longer. We would have selected one treasurer person, and that would have been the treasurer. because that would have been coming to the party. And I think it does a couple of things. The idea is that it makes being a precinct person even more important than it is now. You know, because now it's not just important to the party, hey, you can have a big role in the future of the county and the government of what happens there. So that's a big thing there. I think that that's part of the reason the state party is looking into it. Yes, sir.
So who actually would elect these people that would be, say,
The precinct people?
just the
Everything
precinct?
stays the same, and it's just that if somebody leaves office, there's two parts to this resolution. The first part is if somebody leaves office due to death, moves out of the county, retires,
Okay.
whatever, the party that they were their party would get to appoint the person, and if that person was an independent, the commissioners would get to appoint that person. Okay, that's all it breaks down as. It's just that it gives the party
as
the
in
ability.
As in the whole party?
It would, for
Whole
legislators,
county?
for like if it's a legislator, it
Would
would be
be
just the precincts that
in
make
that
up that
district?
district. If it's for the whole county, like the treasurer, it's the whole entire party, the county party. Okay, so if somebody.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
but that would go back to your bylaws and your, I mean, how you decide. That's not set in statute how that happens, though, at the county party level.
As far as the appointing.
Right.
Right. Well, actually it is. It's in the Wyoming statutes that it's actually laid out how it's done now, which is why you need the statute change.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What I'm talking about is if we change this, then each county party could potentially have their bylaws on how they would select those people. Correct? What I'm saying is each county party could be different around the state. If we change this, each county party could select people differently?
No, it would stay the exact same it is now, except instead of forwarding 3 selections onto the commissioners, we pick one, and that person would get the office. So that's in there. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Clarification, are we explaining the bill?
we're explaining the bill so everybody understands it. We're explaining the bill because we haven't had a motion yet, but I want to make sure, because I forgot to print everything out, I wanted to make sure we have a good understanding of what we're talking about before we get going.
Were we talking about two completely different things?
There's 2 components to this. The first component is we get to replace the officers directly. Okay, so instead of appointing 3 and giving it to the commissioners, we pick one and it goes. The second is to put required, if we want to say you have to show up at one precinct meeting per quarter. That's part of your duties. And if you don't, well then the party could, if they want, they could ask you to step down or give you, or take action to replace you. That's the second part of it. So I don't know why I'm raising my hands so much.
So who would dictate what the requirements are? That would
The
be
central
in
committee,
our
it would actually come,
bylaws?
it would have to be in the bylaws. It would be in the bylaws, so it would be the central committee, or I'm sorry, the convention, because our bylaws can only be changed at convention, and that's true across the state for all counties. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to split this into 2 separate items.
Okay, can we? Okay, what's your split? What do you want to take out? Let's
You said it's 2 parts, right?
Right.
So did we split those 2 parts in both individually?
Okay,
And
so.
we discussed them as separate
Okay,
items?
so let's do the first thing. You want to amend this motion to remove the part where the.
To remove the second half.
To remove the county or precinct person duties and responsibilities part.
Sure, move it.
Okay, remove it. So the only thing we're talking about, so there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, having been moved and seconded, the motion is to completely remove the stuff we're talking about establishing duties for precinct people. That's gone. The only thing it says is that if there's a vacancy, we get to pick the person that fits that vacancy without sending 3 to the commissioners as we do now. Okay, that's moved and seconded. Are there any questions on that?
Question in, so we're only, the motion is going to be how the replacement elected official gets selected.
Yes. That's the only thing we're deciding on this one. There's,
Need that motion made.
Kathy, ready to second.
And Kathy seconded. Okay, thank you.
So any other discussion on that amendment?
Yes.
So what's wrong with the way we have it now?
I believe at the state level, the idea is they want to make being precinct people more important, and this is the way to do that. And I think that There's also the chance, say for example in Rock Springs, okay, heavily Democratic area, okay, where you could have 3 or 5, I don't know how many county commissioners they have, that are all Democrats. But yet, or except for the treasurer is a Republican and passes away or something. And now, who is the 5 Democrats going to select to replace the Republican? The most Republican or the least? I mean, who are they going to select? Let the party do it, I think is the idea.
Mr. Chairman, it would still be one of the 3 Republicans that were selected, though. It's still going to be Republican.
True, but I mean, and then one gets 15, another gets 10, and they pick the one that gets 10. Wait, that doesn't make sense. But that's the way it is. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have a concern over this, and I've read the bill, and I have it here in front of me.
Awesome.
And I vote for my county commissioner, as do my fellow citizens in Campbell County. And I think you're placing too much in the hands of the committee because they're not as widely elected. We were write-in votes in our precinct because nobody else wrote in. Nobody voted for us per se, other than we voted for each other. And my county commissioners, I cast a vote for them, as do hundreds of other people, and I just don't think it's a fair process.
Okay, that's speaking more towards to the whole bill as opposed to the amendment we have on the floor. So is there any other discussion on the amendment about changing it to just selecting the person, the individuals for office directly by the party? Is there any discussion on that amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it. So now the bill, or the resolution, only reads that the party is going to select the replacement candidates. Now, further discussion on that. We've just heard an against from Charlene. Is there a for comment? Okay, hearing none. Can I hear the question? Question's been called. Second, it's been seconded. Oh, no, did you have a comment? Or?
I have a comment, but I don't know, and I guess I'm not sure that I'm going to tell you whether I'm for or against, but I have a comment in regards.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
We've got a little bit of time. We've got 30 minutes.
So what hasn't been is this has all been based off of Republican Party and vacancies, and so the statute is clear that if it is a party that has that it's a party, Republican or Democrat, and how the process works. If there's an independent elected and there is a vacancy in an independent person, state statute has a process for that.
Right. County commissioners get to decide.
Yes,
fill that spot.
but your bill, when I read that bill, doesn't say it's only for the Republican. It says the party does this. And so, as you know, and you go through that, and so then the other part of this is, by statute, commissioners are obligated and required to vote and pick in a public meeting, and if their vote is not done in public, that the motion is null and void, and that decision is null and void. That is different than some of the nonpartisans for school board, city council, hospital board, those things. They're under a different set of rules. In this bill, I see nothing in this that says that vote has to be done in public, or any of those kinds of things. It just simply says in this that whatever party it is will make that selection for that replacement.
And I can tell you all of the statute language that was changed was only where it said we'll select the party shall select 3 people. It now says shall select the person. And that's it. So that's the only change. But everything else remains the same. Nothing else is.
But still, the point of it is that there can be that single person elected without public vote. It could be, however, you as chairman decided that that's how you wanted that vote to be. It could be a ballot that's turned in, a secret ballot, and the votes are counted and comes back and says, Joe's select.
I think we'd have, I understand your concern, and maybe we could add that language to it. But
What I'm saying
the
is.
question's been called, so I mean, I understand what you're saying, so, but I think the question's been called, so we've got to move on to the vote. I understand what you're saying, it's a little too late to amend things. So, all those in favor of the motion as amended, say,
You can only call the question if the question then receives a two-thirds vote to end discussion.
okay, well, do we want to have a two-thirds vote on the call to call the question? The question has been called, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of voting on the measure right now, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it. Okay, the question having been called, all those in favor of the motion as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The nays have it. Okay, so that leads us to the second half of the motion. Does anybody want to move the motion to allow, to establish duties and management of committee members? Not hearing a motion, move on to the next business. Okay, this is a resolution pertaining to sexual orientation and gender identification. This has already been passed by the state party. This is only going to bring us in line with what the state party has done. Vicki, if you'd please read the resolution.
Whereas the party of Abraham Lincoln was created to abolish slavery, recognizing dignity and equality of every human being under law, this same Republican Party continued to lead the fight for natural rights of our common humanity against the Jim Crow laws of Southern Democrats, and still stands for the rights of all people, regardless color, culture, ideology, and religion. Whereas such equal protection under the law demands protection against personal injury or property loss, but cannot demand affirmation of personal ideas, choices, or behaviors without infringing upon the integrity and the property rights of other persons. Yet sexual orientation and gender identity, also called SOGI, laws obliterate this foundational legal distinction. And whereas laws using undefined and undefinable terms to inherently unjust, depriving persons under the law of any reasonable opportunity to know in advance how the law will be applied to them, and gender identity lacks any definite legal content, such as even its proponents are unable either to list every current identity or rule out the addition of new identities in the future. Whereas, wherever the terms sexual orientation and gender identity have been added to the anti-discrimination laws, this ill-defined language has enabled unjust persecution and legal harassment, such as forcing owners to use their own private property for objectionable uses, stripping owners of the right to protect the privacy, safety, and dignity of patrons in showers and private facilities, stripping owners of the right to hire persons of their own choosing, forcing the use of pronouns, titles, and other speech demanded by others, forcing artists to produce creative speech against their own views, stripping mental health workers of the right to treat patients according to the best standards, stripping physicians of the right to decide treatments according to their own judgment for what is best for a patient. These and many other violations of personal integrity and property rights are not only theatrical, but the actual ongoing results of SOGI laws, which have closed businesses, confiscated savings, destroyed reputations, and cost millions in legal defense. And whereas even one use of a law that allows an unjust outcome is enough proof that it is a bad law, yet we have seen not one, but many cases where sexual orientation and gender identity language was used to materially harm law-abiding citizens, depriving them of liberty, property, and a good name. Therefore, be it resolved that the Campbell County Republican Party stand opposed to the insertion of sexual orientation and gender identity language into any policy, ordinance, guideline, or statute at every level of government. And be it further resolved that the Campbell County Republican Party continue to protect the dignity, safety, and integrity of every human being by advocating for just, defined, and limited laws which protect persons from injury and their property from loss while not punishing anyone for holding, expressing, or acting upon their sincerely held beliefs.
Does everybody understand what the resolution is about?
No.
Okay. basically, the bakers, the Christian bakers that refuse to bake a cake for a gay couple, being forced to, and there's one in Portland, Oregon. There's another one down in Colorado. I can't remember the name of the baker off the top of my head. But he said he's a devout Christian. He has no problem serving individual homosexual individuals, but when he is asked to take part in a homosexual wedding, he said that that's not something I can do because it's not something I believe because I'm a Christian. And right now his case is before the Supreme Court as to whether or not that was protected political speech or not. And so that's what this is about. And so that's what all this is about, to stand up for religious freedom, to stand up for individual personal beliefs. So that's what this is about. So, everybody, any other questions about what this is about? If we need to discuss it further, everybody have a clear understanding? Okay, is there a motion to accept this, to advance this resolution?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Patty Collins for the second. All right, having been moved and seconded, discussion. Is there anybody that wants to speak against it? Yes, sir.
If this happens, and I mean, and the purpose of this resolution is for it to become some kind of bill, how is it enforced?
And this is the one resolution that's actually not a bill. We just want to be able to stand up against social resolutions. That's the intent of it. It only brings us in line with what the state party has already done. There is no bill associated with this particular one. If there were a social bill to come up, which has come up in the last two sessions, I believe, we want to make sure that our legislators know where we stand, whichever position they may take. We may not care, we may care. That's what we decide. So that's the intent behind the resolution, and it's again to bring us in line with the state party. Mr. Kissick.
Mr. Chairman, I am for the meat of the resolution, but by the time you get done listening to the resolution, I don't know if I'm for or against it. And I'm not the guy in short. I'm not voting for it, but it's pretty long and pretty wordy.
In fact, yeah, it's just taking exactly what the state said. It's bringing us exactly in line with what the state said. And actually, that was passed here in August of when we had the state meeting.
Would you like me to read the last two just paragraphs, not all of it? I could do the whereas and then let it be resolved again. Just resolved.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Just read the be it resolved just once again. So that's the only part that really matters. The rest of it is all the supporting argument for it.
Therefore, be it resolved that the Campbell County Republican Party stand opposed to the insertion of sexual orientation and gender identity language into any policy, ordinance, guideline, or statute at every level of government. I only smile because I think I said that. But
It's insertion.
thank you.
But you didn't hit the high C this time. You did the first time.
Okay. Got it done.
Okay, so does everybody get an understanding of it? Is there anybody who wants to speak? Let's see, we had a speak for. Does anyone want to speak against? Okay, seeing none.
Question.
Question has been called. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of voting, I guess we can do the vote, but I think the vote's going to be there. So unless anybody objects, we're going to move on to the question. And all those in favor of this resolution, say
Hold on a
aye.
second. How many we're going to vote? Okay. Sorry, she's trying to take her meeting.
Yeah, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes. Okay, on to one last thing. Now, this is the standing rule for handling of resolutions. One of the things that, here's the idea behind this. One of the things that's happened since we started this new meeting every month kind of thing, we've had a couple of resolutions that we've been ambushed. And people have been surprised that we were considering this, that, or the other thing. And that's given us a black eye. One of the things that I think as Republicans we all want is open, honest government. How can we ask for that if we're not willing to do it ourselves? And let people know what we're doing ahead of time and be open and sharing and whatever the right other word is. So the idea is, this has been through the executive committee, and they've done some excellent job, and Janet Maynard deserves quite a lot of credit for taking this and crafting what was originally written into something that I think is far better. To that end, Vicki, could you read the resolution, please? Or the motion for a standing rule. This is going to be the motion for a standing rule. Now, for those of you who don't understand, standing rules are rules that will bind this committee all the time. And the idea behind this one is that we're going to publish stuff ahead of time so people know. So, go ahead, you can read it.
Okay. Proposed Central Committee standing rule for handling of resolutions. All resolutions must be submitted in writing from a Central Committee member. Any Central Committee member may submit a written resolution to the chairman via email at the email address chairman@campbellcountyrepublicans.com, through the website resolution submission page, or by mail to the Campbell County Republican Party, P.O. Box 1252, Gillette, Wyoming 82717, at least 3 days prior to the scheduled meeting. Submitted resolutions shall be posted on the website at least 3 days before a scheduled meeting. The chairman shall add the submitted resolutions to the agenda for the next meeting. The proposed resolution will be shared as a part of the posted agenda for the next meeting. The proposed resolution shall be distributed with the agenda and all emails to the Central Committee members. The proposed resolution shall also be in the information package shared online and distributed at the meeting.
Okay. Does everybody understand what the resolution is about? Any questions? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the resolution? Moved by Clark Kissick. Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded it? Rob Mathis. Okay. Having been moved and seconded, discussion. Is there anybody that's against the resolution? What starts with the against again? Okay. Tex, you want to explain why you're against it?
Are these meetings important?
Yes, sir.
Do you email everybody before the meetings?
Yes, sir.
Then why are we giving people a second chance? Because you said a while ago, you got meetings scheduled till March of next year, correct?
It's true.
Everybody knows that meeting's coming up, so if it's not important enough for people to get here the first time, that's not my problem. And if we're gonna be doing it that way, then why does anybody even show up? Why don't we just email, and then when we have an important issue, then everybody shows up?
And that's a fair point. I think the idea, and speaking for it, and I probably shouldn't, but the idea is to avoid ambush politics. And we've been through that twice, and it hasn't worked out well either time. And as the chairman, boy, did I hear it. And I've heard it from both sides too. You know, I think that nobody is robbed of their rights by this resolution. And just to make sure that everybody knows what they're doing. You know, we've also had problems with having the exact wording of resolutions recorded properly. It's harder than you think, oddly enough. Even though Barb does a wonderful job, sometimes she misses it, I miss it, and getting it right, getting it in writing, so everybody understands it. You know, it's been great. We've had Vicki here to read it and discuss these things, even though I screwed up and forgot to print them out and print again. And so that's kind of, I think that's the idea, is that we prevent that. Now, should people be here? Again, we have to get over that cultural change and get people to supply their proxies and show up and get that. And we're getting closer. Look how many people we have here today. This is probably the second largest meeting that we've had. I'm so excited for you guys. This is awesome. And I think as the culture changes, as people realize, and as we do the precinct caucus, get more people involved, and realize that, hey, these Republicans are listening to us. We're doing the things they want us to do. We will have better attendance because more people want to be where you are today. I believe. So that's my argument for it. Is there anybody against it? Mr. Rainey.
I'm against this one because some topics are timely. May not have even been thought of or brought up for discussion until that meeting. So 72 hours out, I mean, right now, if we follow your rules, every resolution we pass is no good because you didn't pass out a sheet with all 5 of the resolutions.
That's not necessarily true.
Yeah, not necessarily true.
One of the things you can do under Roberts is you could vote to suspend the rules, and I think it takes a 2/3 majority.
Well, we haven't done that, so as of right now,
but you
by
can
your
do it.
rules,
You can override the rule if we have it. So,
but some topics are timely, and they may not come up until that point. So you're removing the ability to handle a situation in a timely manner by forcing rules that may or may not apply.
Okay. Mr. Kissick.
Recently, there's been a push at the commissioners' meetings to be transparent, to have things on the agenda, have things on the website. So I guess I think about that kind of along this same line. This is just being open, transparent, informing people beforehand so that they can come and take part in their government.
Is there another comment against? Seeing none? We're going to vote on the question now. All those in favor of this rule, this standing rule, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
Okay, all the ayes, please stand. The motion passes. And I think,
Mr. Chairman,
Suspend the rules.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment as part of writing this?
oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, I meant to give you credit because you did a good job.
Well,
You
that's
improved it quite a
okay.
bit.
But, you know, Jeff raised the question, and I have been the biggest pushback against Doug as I process this. So, you know, standing rules can be established in Robert's Rules of Order, they can be set aside, so just so everybody knows that. And also at the state level and at the county level, you know, just how this is all presented, I think is very crucial. And it's been tough, it's been really tough on me to process this whole thing, so that's just a comment I wanted to make.
This has been a topic of discussion, and I really think that, you know, we took a step in the right direction by passing it, I think, because again, just like the commissioners, we want to hold them accountable. I know I sent them a nasty letter saying, you have to be more open in doing such and such. And, you know, they pointed their finger right back at me, go, what about you, Mr. Chairman? And they had a very good point, you know. And so I think we've actually done a good thing. And you can still suspend the rules. It's just a little bit harder to do. Next
When we
year,
have, you know, like we have new precinct people come in, you know, what we passed today, there might be 10 new people a year from now that don't have a clue of any of the standing rules. How can we ensure that we're passing on the integrity?
This is going to be on the website, right under the documents that govern us. It's going to be there. Hopefully, all the chairmen after me will take and do all of the right things and make sure that people know what the standing rules are. And so if somebody tries to make a motion for a resolution, you can't do that. I need it in writing 3 days ahead of time, sorry. And so that's how you know. And hopefully, there'll be more training like this. I mean, this should happen every October, or I'm sorry, the October of every election year. This should happen, this training. It shouldn't be something that happens 3 weeks before precinct caucuses are. Because that way because we're not training just the precinct caucuses, we're training everyone. So, I mean, we need, and we do have to work on doing that, that is true.
Okay, and to address, I don't know, I guess maybe not everybody knows, my name is Janet Mader and I'm your state committee woman. But as to Chris's question, as being part of the education committee where Barb was, and we worked on this, that is the purpose of this manual. We want you people to keep this, bring it with you, understand it, and we do have other documents that we want to add. All of those things you're talking about, I have spent hours going back through 4 years of emails, pulling up documents that you wrote so Doug can have them, or documents that Dave wrote so Doug can have them. So we are, as an education committee, trying to pull that together. So if you have documents that you need to send, please do, Curtis.
Okay.
By the way, I don't know if you guys saw this logo, but you're going to see this a lot this year. This little cowboy on the elephant, you can see this a lot this year. This is actually part of the state party My Why program. So if you make a donation to the state party, you get a little hat or a T-shirt or something with this on it. I stole it because I was chairman of the commission. I'm probably going to get in trouble, but that's okay. Anyway, I think, is there any other new business? Kathy, did you have something?
Yes, I did. Chris, for you next.
What
It looked like you were about to stand up.
Oh, no, I was looking at.
Okay, so I just wanted to bring to the attention of this group, an email that was forwarded to me from the Natrona County Republican Party.
It was from the Campaign for Liberty. It was not from the Natrona County Republican Party. It's from Kathy Ide at the Campaign
Thank
for
you
Liberty.
for that. It was sent to the Natrona
Right.
Republican Party from Kathy Ide. You're right. And it was asking for support from that group, asking them to contact all of the members of the Joint Appropriations Committee because they are concerned about the tax increases that are being considered as part of the revenue package. The one that they specifically addressed in the email was the 2% increase on property taxes. But there are also other considerations for a gross receipts tax and also an enhanced sales tax.
Service sales tax.
Service sales.
It's right, because the service is going to get added to the sales tax.
Another
Yes.
2%.
So I just wanted to present that to you for your consideration. I asked permission from the chairman if we could make that email available. Yeah, I didn't really get an answer on that, but
I just wanted, I don't want to be sending out, as the chairman, I don't want to be sending out just any willy-nilly thing. I just wanted you guys to hear what Kathy had to say, and if it's okay to send it to the committee, if you guys want me to send it to y'all, I'll send it out tonight. Mr. Edwards.
Mr. Chairman, the appropriate committee to do that with will be the Revenue Committee.
Right, and I think that's,
Yeah, not the
yeah,
appropriate.
they've got a
My
bunch of
bad.
folks listed.
Sorry.
Yeah. So if you guys would like to see that, anybody against that, getting that email from me? I just wanted to make sure it was okay with you guys. Okay, so that's good.
And, Mr. Chairman, they meet on the 31st
That's right.
in Cheyenne.
Yes.
They're going to talk about all of those bills, so
Thank
it's
you.
not too late to
That's right.
email.
yes,
to
that
them.
is actually the purpose for Kathy Ide writing that email, is there is some urgency behind this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I have one more. I have an email from Focus on the Family. There is a bill, Liz Cheney supported it. It went through the House of Representatives late of 2017, the Pain Capable Onboard Child Protection Act. It would make abortions illegal after the 20th week of pregnancy, which is the point of fetal development that people can likely experience pain. That is expected to be in the U.S. Senate this Monday, January 29th, and they're asking everyone to contact your two senators, of which their contacts are in your manual, as well as it's real simple to get them. But I feel our senators, Enzi and Barrasso, would support this, but the predicament with our legislators and our senators, both at the state level and at the national level, is the opposition floods them with the no. And so if, now that we know this is coming out, I knew about it, but I didn't realize it was going to be hit in the Senate, because that's a decision they make there. You never know when it's going to come up. So I just wanted to put that alert out for people.
Okay, do you guys want to receive that email as well?
Mhm.
Anybody not get it? Okay. All right, is there anything else? Rod?
I just wondered if anybody had any information on the gross receipts sales tax. I did hear there was an amendment that went to the Secretary of State having to do with all business income now that they can collect that. I was supposed to get an email and have it with me, but it didn't make it to me for the meeting tonight, so, but it's out there. I don't know what exactly that did, so.
Do you guys want to receive that one as well?
I do, I want to see the email, but I think there is, Mr. Chairman, I think there's a bill in the revenue, that was in the revenue committee, or at least they talked about putting something out there to to create a way to gather information through the summer of 2019, and that's
There
probably.
was an amendment that went to the,
That's
what you're talking about, yes.
Appropriations or where it's at, but I think it's gonna be in this, it'll be brought up.
In this session, yes.
I
the
just don't
revenue
know what
appropriations.
it
I'm not
is.
sure which one, but
Yeah.
I will get that information
And
too.
we'll get that out, folks. Okay, is there anything else from anybody? Because I think we're done, which leaves me with one last announcement. I'm going to be stepping down as chairman. effective immediately, pretty much. I'm still going to be around to help with the technical details of things and help with all of the things. I've been asked to work on a particular campaign for governor, and I think I wasn't supposed to put it that way, sorry. But I am going to be working. I find it very difficult for me to have a partisan belief, and I truly believe that Harry Hagan is our next governor. And it's probably unfair for me to say that because I'm still chairman, so I'm sorry. But you guys should make up your own mind. We have a number of qualified candidates from Taylor Haynes, Bill Dolan, and perhaps some more that are coming. But I'm going to be stepping down so that I can work on that campaign. I mean, that's how I best can serve Wyoming. I think we've accomplished quite a bit here in the year that we've been doing things, and I think it's thank you very much for the opportunity to serve and work with you folks. This is having you all here. Best thing that happened today. So, your chairman, Vicki Kissick. You want to say that?
I do appreciate each and every one of you. Many of you I know very well. The rest of you that I don't know very well, I hope to get to know you very well. I will tell you that I try very, very, very hard to remain humble and open, and I appreciate crucial conversations. And having said that, I do appreciate all the work that Doug has done. I have talked to the chair of our state Republican Party, Frank Dethorn, before I got here tonight. He wants me to reassure each and every one of you that this will be a smooth transition, that he will be alongside of me and working very closely with me. And we should not feel any kind of a hiccup. We'll just keep moving forward. If you don't have my contact information, it's in the folder. Let me know. And I ask for grace that I have not ever been a chairman, didn't expect to be one. I've always been kind of the bridesmaid or the vice chair of things, but this will be a good challenge for me, and I feel like it'll be a growth opportunity. So I appreciate your coming, and it looks like Chris, once again, has something to add.
Not yet, I'm still looking for it.
Okay. Also, Chairman Dethorn did say that there are things that we must get done in a timely fashion as far as the vice chair seat being vacant. And I will promise you that whatever that is as our state bylaws, it will happen efficiently, and we will get right onto that. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Madam Chairman, I'd just like to tell Doug, on behalf of my Doug and myself, thank you very much. You know, we're newbies to this process, and you've been more than helpful and gracious to us, and walking, hand-holding us through this process, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, this is very difficult for Doug, but it's also an exciting time in his life as well, so I appreciate that, Charlene. Is there anybody else that has anything that they'd like to add? Going once, Chris. Going twice.
I just thought there was a timeline.
There is not in our county bylaws, but as I said, Chairman Dethorn will come alongside of me and our executive committee, and we will take care of business. All right? And do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
All right.